Chapter 520, Taking Land. Chapter 520, Taking Land. Nanjing was being controlled by a Hungarian. Yi Emo was speechless, but he didn't really care. Yi Emo didn't seem to notice Li Sandow's expectant look and continued. Sai Na is a good place to store an army. You've been here the longest. Tell me, is Sai Na suitable for living? How big is it? What are some of its special landmarks? Li Sandow was disappointed that Yi Emo didn't talk about getting revenge for Lone Wolf, but he knew Yi Emo's power and didn't dare not reply to his questions. Sai Na faces the sea in 3 directions. It has some mountains and plateaus, but mainly consists out of forests. There are some natives. It has rich freshwater sources and distinct seasons. Although there are sometimes hurricanes, all in all, it's not a bad place to live, Li Sandow said. Yi Emo continued his questioning. How many natives are here? How big is the land area? Which country does it belong to? After these questions, Li Sandow realized that Yi Emo was thinking about taking Sai Na for himself. He had a look of worry, but still replied, including the forests, it has a land area of nearly 20,000 sq kilometer. There aren't many natives, and they are very separated. It doesn't belong to any country now, either. If I wanted to take over this place, what ideas would you have for dealing with the natives? Yi Emo had already decided that Sai Na had to become his land after hearing that. After asking all these questions, he would go investigate himself too. It didn't belong to any country? This was just too good. Li Sandow said worriedly, Yi Chinbei, if you want to store your army here, the natives would be easy to deal with, but the problem would be with the Americans. Yi Emo asked in surprise. It's around 10,000 km away from the U.S., and it doesn't belong to any country. What has it got to do with the U.S.? Li Sandow explained without having to think, the reason why this good land doesn't belong to anyone yet is because it's in the middle region of Kenya and Ethiopia. Those 2 countries have fought many times over who the land belongs to and negotiated for nearly 10 years. Even still, they couldn't come to a decision, so it dragged on and on. That's when the U.S. intervened and promised something to the 2 countries. Even though it seemed as if they weren't doing anything about it anymore, the U.S. people did come a couple of times. I believe they want the place too. Otherwise, why would they come over multiple times? There might be some mines and natural resources here. Yi Emo nodded and said, Wait for me here. I will go out to have a look. Then, Yi Emo went on his flying sword into the air. He needed to confirm whether this place was like what Li Sandow had said. If it was, then he had to take it. He would kill whoever tried to stop him. In the air of Sai Na, it was clear, and on 3 sides of it one could see the sea. If one ignored its small connection to the mainland, Sai Na was an island. It had more than 10 freshwater sources, and the mountains were lushly green. Yi Emo immediately came to like the place. He could build a country here, much less a city. If he set up some proper marine defense, this place would be in a good choke point during war. Even though modern warfare involved aerial battle as well, this place still seemed very good to Yi Emo. It shall be Sai Na. From now on, this will be my city. Yi Emo nodded. He returned to Li Sandow and knew it's best to get started early. Since the Americans were already looking into the place, he had to take over before they could. After coming back, Yi Emo called Su Yuehua. Sister Yuehua, I found a better place to build a city than Flowing Snake. You should gather the materials at Flowing Snake first, though. Su Yuehua was dazed by Yi Emo's words and reacted after a long while. She asked, You said that you found a better place to build a city than Flowing Snake? Does that place belong to a country? Yi Emo immediately said, It's the original base of Nanjing. There's about 20,000 sq km of land, and it doesn't belong to anyone. Su Yuehua almost dropped the phone to the ground. The first thing she wanted to do was to stop Yi Emo's crazy idea. President Yi, do you know what you're doing? How can I not know about Sai Na? Why would this fertile land not belong to anyone. Do you know why two countries have fought over that land for a long time, yet still didn't come to a resolution? It's because of another party who wants the place, and it's intervening. This intervening country is powerful, and the two countries fighting over it don't want to offend anyone, so they still haven't been able to settle it even after a decade. Yi Mo smiled, so we need to take over quickly. If we get it first, then the U.S. would have to find some other excuse. And if they're really going to fight us, I don't mind. Sister Yuehua, prepare everything, hire large amounts of planes and ships, send them to Sinai, and start building this place. At the same time, we need to transfer our Luo Yu Corporation here. Change Sinai to Luo Yu and announce it to the world. Then, Yi Mo called Su Ping to say that he would be back in Flowing Snake soon. Yi Mo's call made Flowing Snake bustle again. Li Sandow watched as Yi Mo put the phone down and was dumbfounded. He didn't think that Yi Mo would be this crazy to declare Sinai as his place and change its name. Yi Mo said to Li Sandow, "Bring me to see that Freddie." Li Sandow knew Yi Mo's power and didn't hesitate to show him the way. "Li, who let you come to my land?" As soon as they neared the luxurious hall Qian Longtu had left behind, someone reproached them. It was in Chinese, but not very fluently. "He's Freddie's?" Yi Mo looked at the big-bearded guy and asked. Li Sandow quickly nodded. "Yes, he's Freddie." The 30 people behind him are elite troops with their equipment also being first class. Seeing this, Yi Mo let himself go loose. He wasn't planning on negotiating with them. These troops wouldn't cost him much effort at all. After some wind blades, the troops were all killed by the time Freddie could gather himself. Li Sandow looked at the ground full of blood. He knew that Yi Mo was very strong and wouldn't be afraid of Freddie, but he didn't expect the battle to be this easy. It was like stomping on some ants. Yi Mo patted the dumbfounded Li Sandow, who woke up and said dazedly, "It's over." He thought there would be a huge battle at least. "Yes, it's over. I said that this would be my land. So it will be." Li Sandow, "Do you wish to work for me?" Yi Mo needed someone who was familiar with the place. It would save his people a lot of trouble. Li Sandow considered it. Yi Mo was the strongest person he had ever seen, and since Yi Mo would control this land, and he had nowhere to go anyway, why not stay? "Yi Qinbei, I'm willing to work for you." "I'll go through fire dash." Before he could finish his promise, he was stopped by Yi Mo. "Li Sandow, I don't need you to go through fire. You just need to help my second brother, Su Ping, organize the army." "How many people do you have now?" "There's about 200 brothers in Sinai." Yi Mo nodded. "I'll leave this place to you. I will bring the people here. In the meantime, start organizing the outskirts, especially the airport and seaport. We will be using it soon." As soon as Yi Mo had said this, there was a huge rumble in the air. It was a plane planning to land at Sinai's airport. Seeing this, Li Sandow's face changed, and he said, "That's the American Prospector. He came about a week ago too, and now they're back." Seeing this, Li Sandow's face changed, and he said, "That's the American Prospector. He came about a week ago too, and now they're back." "Does Freddie not care about them?" Yi Mo asked. Li Sandow shook his head. "He doesn't dare touch them. I'm sure that if they seized Sinai, Freddie would be the first to surrender." "What do they usually do here?" Yi Mo nodded and asked. "I think they want to build a huge touristic city, a money-making machine. Last time, they were checking the earth content in the forest." Li Sandow still had no faith in fighting the Americans. Just as Li Sandow and Yi Mo were talking, more than 10 people got off the plane. Other than the first few, most of them were fully armed. They had brought some U.S. troops. "Go over and take a look," Yi Mo said to Li Sandow. He didn't want the U.S. to grab a hold of the territory before he occupied it. 30 to 40 men followed behind Li Sandow. When the two parties met, a yellow-skinned man glanced at Li Sandow and asked casually, "You're Li Sandow?" Before Lee Sandow could reply, he continued, "We will be prospecting here for a few days. You have no business here. Make sure your men don't walk around casually, and tell Freddie to keep it down." Then he signaled for the men behind him to move, and they carried all sorts of equipments with them, taking the road to the forest. Yi Emo really wanted to throw a wind blade over, but he knew that wouldn't solve the problem. He said to Lee Sandow, "These Americans should leave soon. After they do as I tell you. Our men will arrive in 3 days. Also, if the Americans ask how their men died, tell them that people happen to suddenly die here, and they're without warning. Tell your men to say the same thing. Furthermore, you need to take control of Freddie's men as quickly as you can. Those who don't surrender, kill them." Although he didn't know why Yi-Mo had so much confidence, Lee Sandow still did as he was told. Seeing them leave, the Americans didn't care. In their eyes, Lee Sandow was just a small-time gangster, far from a match for the U.S. government. Yi-Mo walked into the forest after these people. He was thinking, if only I had a ghost, it'd be a breeze to kill them all. But without it, he could only do it himself. After his targets entered the forest, he started conjuring his chi into needles he would kill with. That way, no one be able to explain how they had died. Before fully taking over Sai-Na, Yi-Mo wouldn't openly slaughter. Once he did, though, he would. As the soldiers walked, they were looking around. Meanwhile, a few gunshots sounded, but soon after, everything calmed down. After a while, Yi-Mo figured that Lee Sandow must have managed to control Freddie's men by then, so he started shooting his needle-shaped chi into the Americans' ears. When the first soldier fell down, people just assumed there had to be some poisonous snakes nearby, hence they started injecting themselves with antivenom and started watching out for snakes. When the second and third soldier fell down, though, the Americans had to halt their movements. When the fourth, fifth, sixth soldier died, they started to worry and retreated back to the outside. "It's a curse. This is a curse forest. Leave immediately and report the news," a gray-clothed American yelled. A curse was the best explanation. It didn't seem like anyone was attacking them, at least not that they could see. The dead soldiers didn't even have a wound. What else could it be other than a curse? Yi-Mo wouldn't kill them all. He needed someone to report back. He was sure that the U.S. would send more people, but that would take a couple of days. By that time, he will have declared Sai-Na to be his. The Americans tried to carry the dead bodies at first, but as more people died, they didn't dare to, and just dumped them in the forest. By the time they made it out, only 2 remained. They had been spared by Yi-Mo intentionally. They stood outside the forest, still fearing for their lives. They wouldn't dare enter this forest ever again. To them, this forest was a demon's forest. Yi-Mo had predicted correctly. The first thing the 2 survivors did was to find Lee Sandow. Lee Sandow kept his people in check as the 2 Americans came over, and they communicated. As Lee Sandow heard that they only had 2 men left such a short time after entering the forest, he was shocked. He thought of Yi-Mo's words and was sure that he had done this. While silently admiring Yi-Mo's power, he said exactly what Yi-Mo had told him to say, that occasionally there were strange deaths around the area. Sometimes there would be none, and sometimes it would happen one after the other. When they heard this, their face turned bad. They didn't ask any further questions, as they would never imagine that Lee Sandow would dare trick them. After their plane left Sai-Na, Yi-Mo thought in contempt, "This was the last time your plane was able to land in Sai-Na. There won't be a next time." When Yi-Mo got to Flowing Snake, everyone was already waiting for him. Even Luo-In and Luo-Fei had come. They didn't seem to be in any conflict anymore. Yi-Mo didn't know how they had resolved things, but that wasn't what he cared about now. There was a lot of content to discuss in the ensuing meeting, but everything was quickly settled. Su Ping brought his couple of 100 guards to Sai-Na first. Su Yuehua would go there at the same time. As for the builders, they would all go on a big plane to Sai-Na together. The big machines would be shipped, and Yi would leave all dealings with the Chinese government to Yiling. Yiling would contact Yi Zifeng, and they would take care of everything on that front. Luo Yu rented all necessary transportation vehicles. After all, they might be rich, but they weren't so rich as to casually buy so many planes and ships. Other than that, Flowing Snake started a population tally. Those wanting to live at Sai Na would be getting permanent residence, and once Luo Yu City was built, they would be citizens of and protected by Luo Yu City. Flowing Snake had nearly 150,000 people right now, but most of them were businessmen. There weren't many long-term residents, only about 60. 000. As soon as Luo Yu made their announcement, it swept through the whole world in a very short time. Some astute tradespeople quickly started making preparations for moving to Sai Na. But what shocked people the most was Luo Yu's announcement to the world that they would be moving to Sai Na and changing the place's name to Luo Yu, building their own city, Luo Yu City. They also declared that Luo Yu City would not belong to any country, and since it was founded by Chinese nationals, the Chinese would have special advantages when applying for permanent residence. Luo Yu had dared seize ownerless land and declare it to the world. This took the U.S. by surprise and shocked the globe. What shocked people even more was that they stated that after the city was built, any armed forces nearing Luo Yu without Luo Yu's consent would be annihilated. Should we send a document to the Commonwealth? Su Yuehua looked at Yi worriedly. Although the construction had begun, it would take a few years to finish. Should we send a document to the Commonwealth? Su Yuehua looked at Yi worriedly. Although the construction had begun, it would take a few years to finish. Yi smiled. Don't worry. All we need to do now is to earn money and build Luo Yu. We don't need to worry about anything else. Even if we gave them a document, do you think they would just accept us? Of course not. Since the U.S. wants this place, they won't let us stay forever no matter what. I'm also afraid that the U.S. would find an excuse to solve the matter through war, Su Yuehua said with concern. Yi hesitated for a while before nodding. Although documents like that are useless, maybe send one over after all, so that we have an excuse. Yi was preparing to go to the desert to find Luo Yu when he was free. If he could, that would be great, but if he couldn't, he would go find those 4 crystals and try to reach stage 5. Once he did, then even radars wouldn't be able to detect him. The U.S. Navy and Air Force would be nothing to him. Although they were tight on money, Su Yuehua still bought 10 ships through all sorts of channels, buying a bunch of weapons as well. She couldn't rely on Yi to solve everything. She also started expanding Luo Yu's airport. Other than that, they started building a port. That would be the foundation of Luo Yu's wealth. Li Sandow brought his men over, and they also joined the construction of Luo Yu City. Food, supplies, machinery were all being shipped incessantly to Luo Yu. Yi just realized that even with a money-printing business like Luo Yu, it still wouldn't be enough. Yi felt like he was going through really tough times. He either needed to borrow money or earn money. Otherwise, his Luo Yu would become the biggest joke on earth. At this time, though, Mo Kong brought his Hong Kong Mo Corporation over and joined Luo Yu, providing them with $5 billion worth of funds. But that still wasn't enough. Thus, Luo Yu made a third notice. Luo Yu formed the Luo Yu Immortal Treatment Hospital and promised they could cure any disease at all, scaring the world, however. Their price was also scary. The starting price was $100 million. They wouldn't cure for anything below that. They also had 3 rules. First, as long as the person wasn't dead and you had the money, you can regain your health at Luo Yu. Second, if you're close to death, you can also ask to live longer, $100 million a year for at most 10 years. Third, if you want to keep your looks forever, you can also come and get the face-preserving pill for $1 billion. Yi knew this was practically robbing money, but he couldn't help but invent such stringent requirements. If everyone went to the hospital for treatment, he wouldn't have enough time to treat them. He was planning on going to find Luo Ing after prospecting Sai Na, but because of the Americans, he had to stay there until he officially owned the place. The route to Luoyu from Sri Lanka's airport was opened once more, but the conditions had changed. Back in Qianlongto's time, the planes were rented, but now the planes belonged to Luoyu. There was only one flight a day, which was for the people seeking help at Luoyu's hospital. The news was like falling bombshells, catching the attention of the world, as it caused much more astonishment than the beauty pill. Yi Mo stayed in Sai Na, fearing the Americans would do something, or perhaps Kenya and Ethiopia. But even after a month had passed, there was nothing at all. Even other countries thought it strange, too. However, the Americans had indeed handed a document to the Commonwealth as soon as they could, rejecting the seizure of Sai Na by Luoyu. Meanwhile, Yi Mo got his first patient. In the White House, the president and congressmen of the two parties, as well as other institute members, had all gathered here. They were taken by surprise how fast Luoyu had taken over Sai Na. Now, they needed to find a good solution to the problem. Luoyu had taken a hold of over Sai Na before they could react, and changed its name to Luoyu, declaring independence. If the Americans just let that happen, they wouldn't be Americans. Without U.S. intervention, Sai Na would have long been taken over. No one dared take food from the U.S.'s mouth. Yet Luoyu had slapped their face. We should drop the matter of the ghostly death of the prospector team and take back Sai Na first. The head of the NSA, Johnston, spoke. When he heard that a small corporation took over Sai Na, disregarding subtle international game rules, he was quite unhappy. If he were the Navy general, he would have ordered an attack already. No one answered his words. Although everyone agreed to his opinion, Sai Na was no one's property. If they attacked now, they would have no justifiable reason. Luoyu was different from Nanqing. Nanqing were like natives to the U.S. When the U.S. needed to excavate Nanqing, they would send an army to get rid of them. But now Luoyu had declared independence. Everyone knew that Luoyu would eventually leave under the pressure of the U.S., but it was a matter of how they applied that pressure. They couldn't just send their army over. After all, the U.S. had to care about their reputation. The president looked at Congressman Bills, and Bills walked over to a large map and pointed at Luoyu. I believe everyone knows where this is. We wanted this place because we found a uranium mine there in the first place. But even without that, it would be a good touristic area. Bills paused and then continued. This is a great port location and a good place for export. But no matter what we build there, it would still be quite far from the U.S. Luoyu is different. Once they build their factories there and export their products, wouldn't it be like printing dollars? So you mean to say that Luoyu suits the place more than us, and we should just let them take it? Johnston sneered. Bills ignored him and continued. A few days ago, our prospector team encountered an eerie event. More than 10 men died for no reason. I think God is just. Since Luoyu took over Sai Na, why not let them find out what that thing was? Congressman Bills, if that's your conclusion after saying that much, we might as well have asked a random citizen on the road. Perhaps they could provide some more constructive ideas, Johnston said. After no one spoke up for a while, someone got up and said, I agree to Congressman Bill's words. Let them stay and build their factories. After they prepare everything and start shipping their products, we can go have our holiday there. But before that, we should send something to the Commonwealth for our future plans. His words woke everyone up. They could just let Luoyu build everything and then take it all. What could earn more money in the world than Luoyu? Meanwhile, Yi Mo was unaware of the Americans' intentions. He was treating his first patient, an oil tycoon from Kuwait called Amor. His condition was very serious, and he was about to die. If he had had somewhere else to go treat his disease, he wouldn't have come to Luoyu. Meanwhile, Yi Mo was unaware of the Americans' intentions. He was treating his first patient, an oil tycoon from Kuwait called Amor. His condition was very serious, and he was about to die. If he had had somewhere else to go treat his disease, he wouldn't have come to Luoyu. Amor's disease was that he couldn't stop sleeping. He had been all over the world to see specialists, but they couldn't cure him. His disease sounded simple, but his condition was very serious. He could stay awake for at most 10 minutes, and then he would fall asleep again. Moreover, when he was asleep, his organs deteriorated at a rapid rate. A famous doctor in Canada injected him a serum, but it had a side effect made him age very quickly. Now, he grew older even faster. Because his family was too big, and he had to deal with a lot of things, he had to keep injecting the serum, and now he was on the brink of death. If Luoyu's beauty pill wasn't absurdly potent, he wouldn't have trusted going to that new city for his disease. His older son Jesse, his wife Anna, and a few bodyguards came with him. Other than this, the famous CBS News channel also came to Luoyu. Jesse invited them. They had given that hospital a huge amount of money to have their dad treated, so they invited CBS in case of anything went wrong. CBS was very happy to join them. They wanted first-hand news about Luoyu, but Luoyu didn't welcome anyone, and there were more than 10 ships patrolling. Yi Mo had seen Amor's disease before, but it was at a really advanced stage in his case. After cultivating, he had learned that it was due to the meridian's withering. The only way to cure him was to inject qi into the meridian, allowing it to recover life force. But before curing him, Yi Mo asked how much Amor had. He knew that not all rich people could take out 100 million just like that. Of course, the real rich people didn't appear on Forbes. At any place and time, the real wealthy people hid under the ground. Everyone was used to measuring someone's wealth through their assets, but this couldn't include everyone. Amor was like that. Through Suyuehua, he had found out that Amor's assets didn't rank very high in the world rankings. He had around 10 billion, but Yi Mo knew that this figure wasn't accurate. Seeing Yi Mo not talk for a long time, Jesse frowned. If it hadn't been for the constant fighting about the distribution of his wealth, he wouldn't bring his father there. But of course, if his father could really be cured, it wouldn't be bad for him. Doctor, can you cure my father's disease? Jesse said. Yi Mo nodded. I can, but the medicine for it will be expensive. I need 1 billion. Yi Mo had thought about this. He couldn't stay there to treat people. In the past month, there really hadn't been patients. He might as well do it, leave Luoyu, and focus on getting stronger. 1 billion. Jesse fell silent. That sum was no small deal, even for their family, but it didn't matter that much. Yi Mo looked at Jesse and said, You don't need to worry about me cheating you. CBS is here. If I wanted to avoid public outrage, I wouldn't cheat you. Of course, you can also pay after I cure your father. Jesse nodded and agreed. Although 1 billion was a bit much, it was worth it if it could save his father. Yi Mo was very straightforward. Since he got into an agreement with Jesse, he immediately started treating his father. Of course, he didn't let anyone see the process. He sent everyone out before using his qi to help Amor recover his meridians. Although Yi Mo was at stage for middle level, he still spent 2 entire hours on him. After recovering his meridians, Amor fell asleep. Yi Mo then took out a small piece of the 1,000-year snow lotus and made a serum with that, which he fed it to Amor. After this, Yi Mo woke Amor up with acupuncture and then opened the door. It had been 3 consecutive hours. If Guichi's squad hadn't looked that ferocious, Jesse would have charged inside. Amor had just woken up and looked confused as his wife and son charged in. He clearly didn't know what had happened. Anna and Jesse looked at Amor in disbelief. His face looked 10 years. They knew that Amor was better than ever. The family chatted and finally understood what was going on. When Amor knew of the situation, he immediately crawled up to thank Yi Mo. Although 1 billion was a bit much, to him it wasn't. Even if it had costed 10 billion, he would have still paid it. if it saved him. Without any hesitation, Amor made Jesse transfer the money to Luo Yu. He could tell how good his condition was. He felt very energetic and hungry. There was no way he wasn't healthy again. CBS recorded the entire family's conversation and their gratitude to Yi Mo. Although CBS requested Yi Mo to take off his mask over and over, he refused. He still had a lot of enemies, and other than Northern Sand, there was America now. Su Yuehua didn't stay around with the family, and they didn't want to stay there either. Amor had too many things to take care of. If he hadn't woken up, his family and his whole business would have been completely devoured. This money was too easy to earn. Su Yuehua got the 1 billion and sighed. Yi Mo shook his head. There won't be a lot of opportunities like this. After all, there are very few people who can spend 100 million US dollars just like that. Sister Yuehua, you need to speed up the construction of Luo Yu. Also, give a portion of the money to Su Ping in order to build the army. We need the soldiers to swear loyalty to Luo Yu. Also, we need to be able to protect ourselves. I know, I've already discussed this with Su Ping. The project for building the army has been progressing very well. Many people are willing to stay here. Modern warfare doesn't need a lot of soldiers, but rather money and scientists. We've been inviting all sorts of people from all over the world. In a few years' time, it will all have changed. I'm just afraid that the U.S. might suddenly attack, Su Yuehua said worriedly. Yi Mo also frowned. He didn't understand why the U.S. had done nothing after he had killed their soldiers. This didn't seem like them. Why hasn't the U.S. come already? Yi Mo subconsciously asked. He stayed there, so that if any U.S. soldiers came, he could kill them all, but they hadn't sent anyone. What were they doing? Will they wait until Luo Yu almost finishes its constructions and then look for trouble? Su Yuehua asked. Yi Mo smiled. Do you think this is a children's game? After we finish building everything, they plan to just come and ruin it all? They would never do anything that didn't profit them. Suddenly, Yi Mo stopped. He finally understood why the U.S. wasn't attacking Luo Yu for now. So that's it. Yi Mo breathed it easy instead. What is it? Su Yuehua quickly asked. What is it? Su Yuehua quickly asked. Yi Mo sneered and said, they probably want us to finish moving all of Flowing Snake's factories first and then take over the place. Before that, they won't say anything, and other countries would never do anything either. In fact, they might even offer to help us. Su Yuehua soon understood what Yi Mo meant. Luo Yu was in Flowing Snake, and even if the U.S. wanted it, they wouldn't dare take it. At Luo Yu City, though, it was different. They had an excuse to come at any time. Yi Mo didn't mind at all, and said, as long as they give us time, it will be easy for us. You should hurry the construction of the city, but don't worry about bringing the factories over yet. When Luo Yu City is about to finish, only then will we build the factories. Drag out the time, make it big and grandiose, and build lots. Just make sure that the Americans don't suspect that we've seen through their plan. But first you need to tell Yang Jiao and Fong Nan to increase security around the factories. After guessing the U.S.'s intentions, Yi Mo actually calmed down. This wasn't a bad thing for him. He would use the time to cultivate and try to initiate a breakthrough. If the U.S. invaded them, the real fighting power would be him. After all, it would be a joke to depend solely on the Luo Yu army to stop them. Sister Yuehua, I'll leave this to you. I need to go out now, but I'll keep my phone on me. So, if anything's up, just call me. Yi Mo wanted to find those 4 stones. He also told Su Yuehua to try and keep the scientists that might come, if they come at all. Yi Mo finally understood why the Black Sun Empire wanted to kidnap scientists. At the same time as Yi Mo left, heated debate on Luo Yu City was held all over the world. Amor was a world-class wealthy man, and many people knew about the gravity of his disease. Many elite hospitals and doctors had declared his imminent death inevitable, yet after he spent a mere billion, he actually got cured in 3 hours. He was even 10 years younger. This was a miracle. If anyone still felt suspicious about the matter, CBS's on-the-spot interview was the best evidence. According to the journalist, Amor had called the expenditure the most worthy $1 billion he had ever spent. There were even reporters sent out to interview Luoyu's CEO, Yu Miaodong. Yu Miaodong's words were very simple. This is the power of Luoyu. As long as you believe in us, we will be able to show you miracles. Many sick, wealthy people went to Luoyu to look for a way to be treated at its immortal hospital, but the prices were simply too exorbitant. Average wealthy people couldn't afford it. Although there are very few people who could go for the treatment, that didn't mean there were none. Luoyu City was seen more and more as a metaphysical and magical place. Many people even went to their website to check out the rules for becoming a resident. How did you become a permanent resident? There were some requirements. For example, experts in special fields were welcomed especially, and there was one rule above all. Luoyu City was not a haven for crime. Any criminals would be executed upon identification. Despite the already severe requirements for joining Luoyu, many people knew that it would only get more and more difficult in the future. It would be much easier to go at this time than later on. What was the biggest news in the world? Luoyu building a city. Of course. What was the biggest name in the world? Luoyu Immortal Hospital. Of course. What was the biggest trend in the world? Joining Luoyu City. Of course. All sorts of news about Luoyu spread out. Eventually, the name Luoyu City was ignored, and instead, many people called it Luo Immortal City. Yi Mo didn't go to the Nei snow mountains right away. He went to the desert first. Since he had that photo, if he didn't go check it out, he wouldn't be able to sleep well. Due to Luoyu City, he was 1 month behind schedule. The Taklamakan Desert was still the same as before, but Yi Mo's mood there was much different. Last time, he had been only stage 2 and surrounded by Qianlongto's men. He was almost devoured by the desert, barely not dying of thirst. Yi Mo landed inside a cave corroded by wind. He remembered this place clearly. It was in this cave that he reached stage 3 as he was nearing death. Yi Mo had returned, and the cave was still there, but the yellow-dressed girl was not. Yi Mo stood in the cave for a long time and felt disappointed. Yi Mo sighed and investigated the back of the cave. It was near the huge rock and pool of water that were there that he had given Luo Ying her birthday present. Although he didn't know that Susu was Luo Ying at the time, he had fallen in love with her nonetheless. Now that he had come again, he was dazed. That huge rock was still there, but the rocky pond was gone. Who could possibly take away a stone pond in the desert? He had given the stone pond to Luo Ying, yet now it had been taken away. Yi Mo stood there, dazed and feeling empty, as though he had lost the most precious thing in the world. Yi Mo suddenly thought, who could have taken it away? Other than Luo Ying knowing about it, who on earth could have found it? Susu, Yi Mo whispered subconsciously. His master must have been here and taken the gift he had given her. It was definitely Luo Ying. Did she miss him? Why didn't she come looking for him? Even though she was yellow level middle stage, he knew how hard it would have been to bring the stone pond from the desert. She wouldn't have found anyone to help her either. He really wondered how she had taken it away. Yi Mo's heart ached. It was as if he could imagine his master in her pale yellow dress, underneath the blazing sun, in the endless desert, arduously pulling the stone pond. So Luo Ying must have been there to take away the stone pond. Yi Mo felt as if his heart was struck by something hard. Luo Ying had also missed him a lot, but probably she thought that he was her brother, and therefore didn't dare to see him. This was all caused by Jing Shi, that old woman. Yi Mo's heart was filled with anger. Although he had already killed her, he didn't resent her any less. After staying there for an entire day, Yi Mo left in sadness. No matter where she was, he would find Luo Ying. Yi Mo didn't get on his flying sword. He just walked slowly across the endless desert, The autumn desert wasn't as hot as before, but it was more barren. As the dusk sun shone on the desert, Yi Mo's shadow was stretched out very long. Nothing but his footsteps were left behind in the desert, emphasizing his loneliness. Yi Mo stopped. He looked back at his lonely footsteps and suddenly understood that his was a path that only he dared walk in this world. Yi Mo howled and was prepared to get on his flying sword when suddenly a familiar back appeared before his eyes. Yi Mo was too familiar with this figure. He had seen him on many pictures. This was the person Northern Sand wanted to capture, the designer of the space flower. Yi Mo was too familiar with this figure. He had seen him on many pictures. This was the person Northern Sand wanted to capture, the designer of the space flower. But all of a sudden, that person disappeared. Yi Mo immediately appeared at where the figure had disappeared from and let out a breath of relief. There were so many unexplainable things about the desert that even he didn't dare to be careless now. But that place right there he knew all too well. The area was just a barren, plain landscape, but he did find a large patch of purple heartvine and a dried-up spirit well. That figure had disappeared right here, so it had probably gone underground. This guy really knew how to hide. No wonder the Northern Sand people hadn't been able to find him. Yi Mo kicked the fine sand away, which revealed a stone board. Yi Mo opened it, and it in turn revealed a stone staircase. As soon as he went down, there was a gunshot. Yi Mo caught the bullet and looked at the man who had fired. He looked very young, younger than 30, but was very skinny. His face was also very pale, and he had messy hair, but his eyes were very calm. He didn't seem shocked by Yi Mo catching a bullet with his hands at all. What truly surprised Yi Mo was that there was a monkey-like animal next to the man, but upon further scrutiny, it appeared to be quite different from a monkey. Yi Mo soon recognized it. The reason why the man had been able to find this place was most likely this creature. This thing must have ambushed him, and he probably chased it underground. This man had actually trained it. Both the monkey and the man were looking at Yi Mo vigilantly at the moment. Though, if I'm not wrong, then you're the man wanted by Northern Sand. Yi Mo said plainly. Who are you? Did Northern Sand send you here to capture me? The man didn't seem worried at all. Yi Mo shook his head. I'm Yi Mo. I'm not from Northern Sand. In fact, I have a feud with them because I stole something of theirs, although they don't have any evidence. However, I believe they will realize soon enough. So no Northern Sand, and I don't really mix. Oh, in that case, there's no conflict between us. Why are you on my land? The man's pale face had a sliver of surprise on it. He imagined Yi Mo had to be quite capable, being able to take things from Northern Sand. Yi Mo smiled. You're a bit mistaken. First of all, we do have conflict. Secondly, this place isn't yours. I've been here before, but when I last came, there was a lot of purple heartvine, and I used that spirit well behind you. You've been here before? The man looked shocked. He hadn't expected someone could have been to such a hidden place. If it weren't for his small ball leading the way, he would never have been able to enter the place. Yi Mo waved his hand. You don't need to be that anxious. I'm not here to kill you. If I were to change my mind, though, I could attack you in no time. But since fate let us meet and we have a common enemy, I believe we can work together. How about it? The inventor shook his hand. No need. You're no match for Northern Sand. I won't work with you. If you really fought with Northern Sand, you'd stand no chance at all. Why? Yi Mo asked. This man came from North Sand, so he probably knew a lot. The man seemed to know that his gun couldn't threaten Yi Mo, so he put it away and said, Northern Sand is a very strict organization. They have the most advanced weapons in the world and the most excellent engineers. They even have their own land. They can easily annihilate a country. Do you think you're a match for them? You would only make me die faster. Yi Mo thought for a bit and asked with confusion, Northern Sand has the most advanced weapons in the world? That's not necessarily true. How can a private organization have the most advanced weapons in the world? Are their arms even better than the US's? The man sneered. The US is nothing. I designed many weapons and battle equipment for Northern Sand. How could I not know? You know the space flower the entire world is fighting over, right? That's not even the strongest thing I designed. The US truly is nothing. Yi Mo frowned and looked at the man. Who are you? How can you know technology so much more advanced than the world's standards? The man's face went more pale as he shook his head and said, I don't remember who I am. I do have some recollection of coming from some country, but I can't even remember which one. I forgot a lot of the technology too. I can only remember 10 to 20%. How did you join Northern Sand then? Yi Mo continued. Apparently, I was unconscious in a valley when a Northern Sand member saved me. I then quickly became their #1 designer, but I felt like I was working too hard and our ideals were different. They wished for worldwide domination and to enslave the human race. So I signed a contract with them that I would leave after finishing the space flower. But before I finished it, I noticed they regretted their decision. So I secretly made a flying device and escaped. The man then sat down, not wanting to discuss any further about it. Yi Mo thought, did this person also come from a different world like me? But this guy was really lacking in EQ. If Northern Sand actually let a genius like him go, they wouldn't be Northern Sand. But you can't just keep staying here, right? Are you going to stay here for the rest of your life? Yi Mo asked with other intentions. The man scanned Yi Mo. Although it's harsh here, but with Small Ball, I can still live. I'm sure that as soon as I leave this desert, I'll be caught by them. Then he patted the monkey. I can take you to my territory. I want you to help me with some things, but you'll be completely free. How about it? Yi Mo decided to just voice his idea. He couldn't let a genius like this pass. Your territory? You can promise me freedom, but can you promise me my life? I trust you won't kill me, but can you stop Northern Sand? Also, don't you understand that as soon as I step out of this desert, they will know? The man looked at Yi Mo in confusion. Yi Mo smiled. Since I said it, I can do it. I made a company called Luoyu, and I moved it to a place where I'm building a city. But there are some people scheming for my land, so I need a technological expert to help me. Hearing the name Luoyu, the man suddenly got up. I've heard of this company. They are very powerful. Even I can't imagine the recipe for the beauty pill. Its designer is very good. Did you make it? Yi Mo didn't answer directly, but kept enticing the engineer. My place is different from Northern Sand. They just want to dominate the world, but I simply want the people around me to live peacefully, with no one oppressing them. I want my place to be a place where everyone can live happily without corruption or crime. So you can rest assured that I don't have those ambitions. Where did you move your company? The man seemed interested not because of Yi Mo's ideals, but because of Luoyu. That beauty pill was too absurdly powerful. Of course, he did also want to live the sort of life Yi Mo described. A place with the ocean on 3 sides and 1 part connecting to forest. It has an area of about 20,000 sqkm, and we just moved there. We're still building the city. Hence, I'm on the weaker side now. If you can join us and help us design more advanced battle machines, I believe I can help you leave this desert and assure your safety, Yi Mo said. The man smiled pridefully. If this land of yours is really as you say, then let me design it. I'm sure that even if the US were to send all their warships, they wouldn't be able to do anything. You can design a city? Can you design the defense mechanism of a city? Yi Mo was overjoyed. He looked at the man with desperate eyes. You can design a city? Can you design the defense mechanism of a city? Yi Mo was overjoyed. He looked at the man with desperate eyes. The man said with contempt, "I'm not the best at designing weapons. I'm better at designing cities and some other things. I don't like designing war machines, and making them doesn't come naturally. It's as if I have the ideas in my brain already." Yi Mo made up his mind to take that person to Luoyu. He felt he was the most suitable person to develop the new city of Luoyu. "I'm genuinely asking you to join Luoyu City. You will also have a part of the city. This city belongs to everyone, and I know you're very capable, so I hope you will agree. I'm certain that you can only live the life you want at Luoyu City," Yi Mo said pleadingly. The man could hear how serious Yi Mo was. He sunk into silence. He didn't want to jump into another pit after just getting out of one, but he also knew there was no point in staying in the desert. Although he didn't know how Yi Mo was going to get him out of there, since he believed his words, he was sure Yi Mo had a way. Moreover, he felt Yi Mo's tone was genuine, and he didn't seem to be trying to trick him in any way. Yi Mo saw this and quickly said, "I won't force you, but even if you don't join Luoyu City, I have my ways to go against Northern Sand. I know you must keep secrets in order to be able to design the space flower and run away from Northern Sand. Of course, I also keep some secrets since I can make the beauty pill and face Northern Sand. As long as you join Luoyu City, I don't mind letting know some of my capabilities." "Your capabilities?" the man asked with confusion. Yi Mo nodded. If this man agreed to join Luoyu City, he would have to take him with him away, which meant going on his flying sword. This would expose his secret, but for Luoyu City, Yi Mo didn't mind. Also, Yi Mo felt that although he was really good at technology, his EQ was really low. He wasn't afraid of that man betraying him. "They call me Xing Worker. I don't know what my real name is. If Luoyu is really as you say, then I will join you. I don't like hiding for my life. I want to be able to live openly, and my only condition is that I can leave whenever I want," the man said slowly. Yi Mo rejoiced. He knew that if Xing Worker said this, he had decided on joining Luoyu City. Of course, his last condition would only be possible if he worked with Yi Mo. Yi Mo was sure that with any other country, his last condition wouldn't work. He nodded to Xing Worker and said, "If you don't mind, you can have the surname Yi, like me. I'll call you Yi Xing from now on." "That's perfect. I'll be called Yi Xing from now on. Even if I remembered my name, I wouldn't change it. Should I call you Yi Mo or City Lord?" Yi Xing said. Yi Mo thought for a moment and said, "We are all working for the same goal. I'm a step ahead of you, so you can call me Big Marshal Brother." "Okay," Yi Xing agreed immediately. Yi Xing felt the monkey beside him moving and said, "This is my friend, Small Ball. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have been able to live in the desert these last few months. I want to bring him with me." "No problem at all. I also knew about this place because of it. It's very fast." Yi Mo agreed. Although he talked a lot, Yi Xing was too useful to Luoyu City. Yi Mo took out a bracelet and gave it to Yi Xing. "This is my greeting gift. It can protect you. Take it." Yi Mo didn't want Yi Xing to die easily. Yi Xing took the bracelet, and he stared at it for a while before wearing it. "Don't you think I'm lying to you?" Seeing that Yi Xing wasn't asking him how it could protect him, Yi Mo asked. Yi Xing shook his head. "No, from my perspective anything is possible. Many people are limited by their thoughts, so their potential is also limited." Then Yi Xing gave a bag to Yi Mo and said, "This is my gift to you. Northern Sand is trying to capture me mostly because of this." Yi Mo opened the bag and saw 2 extreme energy stones. He immediately asked, "Extreme energy stones? You actually have this? You know about it too?" Yi Xing was surprised. Yi Mo also took out 2 crystals and said, "This is the thing I stole from Northern Sand, but I don't know where it comes from. You actually managed to take this from them?" Yi Xing looked at the crystal in shock. He finally understood what the problem between Yi Mo and Northern Sand was. But before Yi Mo said anything, he said, "They are the same as mine. I brought them with me. I don't know where they come from either. I've forgotten a lot of things, but I do know they are very important. They are a very powerful energy source. Since Marshall Brother has two of these, things will be much easier in the future. You can keep them. After all, you are the designer of Luo Yu City. Yi Mo gave them to Yi Xing. Yi Xing took the crystals and said after a moment, Marshall Brother, you are indeed different to the people in Northern Sand. Don't worry. As long as you give me time and money, I will be able to build a city never seen before. Okay, in that case, we'll go to Luo Yu City now. Yi Mo was in a much better mood. Although he hadn't found Luo Ying, he had found an otherworldly genius. How will we go there? Yi Xing followed Yi Mo to the surface of the desert and asked. Yi Mo said, My secret is that I can fly on a sword. Since you told me your secret, I will also tell you mine. Then Yi Mo picked up Small Ball and Yi Xing, and they all flew on the sword into the clouds. Flying? No wonder you don't fear Northern Sand. Yi Xing looked into the clouds below Yi Mo and said that one simple sentence, after which he didn't speak for a long time. But Yi Mo could tell Yi Xing was surprised that he could fly, but not as surprised as Ning Qingxue or Luo Xian. Marshall Brother, what were you doing in the desert? Yi Xing soon calmed down and started chatting. Yi Mo's eyes were full of despair. I came to find my master, Luo Ying. She's also my wife. A few months ago, she came here, but now she's gone. Are you talking about a woman in a pale yellow dress? Yi Xing asked. Yi Mo replied excitedly, Marshall Brother, have you seen her? Yi Xing nodded. Yes. A few months ago, I saw a woman drag a huge rock as she left the desert. So she was your wife. I wondered why she was carrying such a huge rock in the middle of the desert. Yi Mo sunk into silence. It was Luo Ying who had taken the stone pond indeed. As if he could feel Yi Mo's sadness, Yi Xing didn't say anything. By the time they got to Luo Yi Ning Qingxue, Luo Fei and Luo Yin had already returned from Flowing Snake. There was no need to go to Flowing Snake much anymore. Yu Miaodong would be handling things there. Yi Ling didn't come back. She had gone to Beijing. Yi Mo didn't announce to everyone about Yi Xing's arrival. He just told Su Ping, Su Yuehua, and Ning Qingxue. He assigned him as the head designer of Luo Yu City, who would help Su Yuehua build the city. Although Yi Xing was very capable, he wasn't good at socializing, so he needed to discuss some matters with Su Yuehua. Now that Yi Xing had joined them, Yi Mo could relax knowing that Luo Yu City was in good hands. He was sure that with enough time, even if Luo Yu City didn't have him present, they could protect themselves. After leaving Ning Qingxue with a qi-increasing pill, Yi Mo decided to go to the Nei snow mountain to find a chance to ascend. Yi Mo didn't call Zheng Jingxia. If he could find the crystals, he would give one to Zheng Jingxia. If not, it would be a waste of time to make him go there. With the map Zheng Jingxia had left behind, Yi Mo soon found the cliff. It was indeed where the gourd cave had been before, a place similar to where Yi Mo had been trapped. Just when Yi Mo was about to jump into the valley and start digging, a white figure dashed across his eyes. It was that small fox. It was the third time Yi Mo saw the small thing. The small fox saw Yi Mo and also stopped to stare at him closely. Yi Mo really liked the pure white animal. It was very cute. Although Yi Mo didn't know why it was staring at him instead of running away, he wanted to catch it. Yi Mo really liked the pure white animal. It was very cute. Although Yi Mo didn't know why it was staring at him instead of running away, he wanted to catch it. But just as Yi Mo was about to move, it suddenly dashed and disappeared into the rocks in the valley. It was many times faster than when he had last seen it. Such a strange-spirited animal. Yi Mo's spirit sense locked onto the fox and saw it pass through the crevices in the rocks and disappear into a hole. The hole was very deep, and Yi Mo's spirit sense couldn't reach its inside. Was the spirit well Zheng Jingxia had talked about in there? It would have been very hard for ancient martial artists to dig open that place, but for an immortal cultivator like Yi Mo, it really wasn't hard. An ancient martial artist would have had to clear all of those rocks, but Yi Mo only had to scan with his spirit sense and find the nearest tunnel. He could even move the earth and stones with his spirit sense, and qi. It was much easier and time-saving than using inner qi. Moreover, Yi Mo had a lot of sharp tools. He still had a lot of good weapons those Earth-level men had used. Yi Mo took out his collection and started digging. Despite this, Yi Mo still spent an entire day to dig out the tunnel and broke almost 10 Earth-level weapons. No wonder Feng Wu and Zheng Jingxia had given up. If they hadn't managed to dig out anything, it would have been a big waste of time. And even if they actually started to dig, it would have taken half a month. The main thing was that if the spirit well was completely covered by rocks, then it would be useless even if they dug it out. And taking into account how much the mountain had collapsed, it was highly possible that the spirit well had been crushed. Yi Mo stood at the entrance of the cave, from where he could see a huge stone wall of tens of meters. Yi Mo approached it and immediately knew that it wasn't natural. It was man-made. No wonder Zheng Jingxia said it would take 4 people to open it. If he simply destroyed the stone door, without the protection of the stone door, the things inside might get damaged. The spirit well might not even work next time someone needed it. However, the stone wall already had a huge crack on it due to the explosion. From the crevice, Yi Mo's spirit sense could scan a thin water creek. Was that the spirit well they talked about? Yi Mo scanned around confused, and he saw 4 milky white crystals on the wall. He was immediately shook. They were spirit stones indeed. Although they were just a few, especially low-grade spirit stones, they brought hope to Yi Mo. It motivated him. If spirit stones could form there, there should be a spirit well. It was very precious in the cultivation realm for qi-gathering cultivators. One couldn't imagine how valuable it would be on Earth. Yi Mo's heart started beating very fast, but he finally calmed down. He felt he had gotten too excited. It wasn't good for his cultivation. He just couldn't control his joy of finally seeing spirit stones. Yi Mo calmed down for a while, and then watched the inside with his spirit sense, after which he was dazed. He saw the small white fox, which was hiding inside the spirit well, staring anxiously at the door. Clearly, he knew someone was here, and that the place wouldn't be its from now on. No wonder it had gotten so fast. It had been drinking spirit well water every day. Not even Ji got that luxury. Yi Mo took out his flying sword, hacked an opening on the stone door, and went in. The white fox was obviously wary of Yi Mo and stared at him closely, but it had no intentions of leaving. Naturally, it liked the place. Yi Mo went to grab the 4 spirit stones immediately. The long-awaited feeling of spirit qi almost made him cry out of comfort. "This is what I need," Yi Mo sighed. He then took out a small jade box and carefully placed them in it. If this had happened in the cultivation realm, people would have been laughing their asses off. Yi Mo started looking at the place carefully. It seemed like a volcanic cave, and there was water seeping from the stone wall. There were 3 stones bulging out. It was probably the place where the top 3 could cultivate at. The 4 spirit stones had been formed by the water that seeped out of the wall. Yi Mo understood what was going on. He had suspected that there might have been a small spirit stone mine behind the stone wall, but when he scanned his spirit sense, he realized there wasn't. If it had been a spirit stone mine, then Yi Mo would dig the wall open immediately, but it wasn't. If he dug the wall open, it would destroy the source of the spirit well. Yi Mo took out an egg-sized spirit stone, held it in his hand, and sat in the middle of the spirit well. It was almost a luxury for Yi Mo, who had been accustomed to the deprivation of spirit qi. The small fox saw that Yi Mo didn't touch the well and relaxed. It went to sleep in a corner of the cave and didn't disturb Yi Mo's cultivation. Time flew by during cultivation. It was as though he was back in Luoyu continent, and he was cultivating with his master. Yi Mo just kept absorbing spirit chi, and he had to change to the next spirit stone after the first had been depleted. His already achieved stage for middle level soon became stage for latter stage, but Yi Mo didn't stop at all. He just enjoyed the satisfaction of rapidly devouring spirit chi. His meridians were being nourished by spirit chi. They quickly became stronger and wider. The powerful chi formed cycles in Yi Mo's body, and when the third stone was almost used up, he reached the peak of stage 4. Yi Mo still didn't wake up. He subconsciously took out the fourth spirit stone and felt more and more spirit chi filling his meridians. He knew that the opportunity to break through had come, so he increased his speed of taking in spirit chi rumble as his chi charged at the limit of his meridians in an attempt to break through. It finally broke through the dam and bursted out, right when the fourth spirit stone was about to run out. Impurities seeped out of Yi Mo's body, and that long river of chi made Yi Mo acquire a new sense of power. He was at least twice as strong as before, and also felt lighter. Yi Mo wanted to howl. He knew he had reached stage 5. When Yi Mo subconsciously wanted to take out another spirit stone to consolidate his power, he found that he had used them all up. Yi Mo opened his eyes and saw that the spirit chi in the spirit well was much more diluted. He had used up almost everything there. He had only reached stage 5. How could have he used up so many resources? Yi Mo subconsciously looked for the fox, but it had already left. Yi Mo quickly consolidated his power and stood up. It was too hard cultivating there. He had such good conditions, but he had only reached one stage higher. Yi Mo casually threw a wind blade, and it silently cut a huge hole on the rock. It was much stronger than a regular stage 5 attack. Yi Mo was sure that if he were to fight Wang Lenchan again, he would be able to crush him head-on with just a wind blade. His wind blade was still lacking for great heaven masters like Ren Pingchuan, though. Yi Mo was sure that if he were to fight Wang Lenchan again, he would be able to crush him head-on with just a wind blade. His wind blade was still lacking for great heaven masters like Ren Pingchuan, though. Looking back at the spirit well, Yi Mo didn't touch it. Perhaps in a few more years he would be able to get a few more spirit stones. He had much more confidence in cultivation now. If he had found spirit stones once, who could say he wouldn't find them a second time? When the blue flower blue leaf grass had fully matured, then even without spirit stones he would be capable of concocting chi-increasing pills and reaching the tertiary stage of chi gathering with them. Yi Mo was sure that even though he was still no match for great heaven now, once he reached the chi gathering tertiary stage, he would be able to slaughter them. Yi Mo cleaned himself and left the stone hole. He let that small fox live here for now. It didn't damage the spirit well at all. It didn't know how to cultivate after all, and only drank some water. When Yi Mo blocked up the tunnel he dug out, Yi Mo felt a fit of hunger. He didn't know how long he had been in the cave. His phone was long since out of battery. Yi Mo desperately wanted to know how Luoyu City was, so he didn't even take the time to eat and just boarded his flying sword and flew to Luoyu desperately. At this moment, in a newly built crescent moon-shaped building, Su Yuehua, Ning Qingxue, Su Ping, Yi Xing, Zhang Jiayin, and Li Sandao sat by a round table with serious expressions on their faces. Something had happened at Luoyu City. Zhang Jiayin was supposed to be responsible for things at Flowing Snake, yet even he had also come to Luoyu for this. Luoyu was under attack. There were many masters in Luoyu who were good at individual fights, but no one knew how to fight a war, so Zhang Jiayin had moved here. We lost 3 of our 10 ships. If this continues, we will lose all of our ships soon, Li Sandao said worriedly. Yi Xing raised his eyebrow. If I had another year, or even half a year, the new warships I could design would beat their pirate asses. Li Sandao frowned. There's no use talking about that now. We're too close to the Yatting pirates, and none of us are good at maritime warfare. It's natural that we're no match for them. We can only wait for the city lord to come back. I'm very curious why these pirates only destroy our port and warships. Why do they not charge on land? What good does this do them? Ning Qingxue really wanted Yi Mo to come back too, but she knew that Yi Mo had gone out to make a breakthrough. Once he succeeded, he would come back for sure. Su Ping immediately said, "Sister-in-law, you don't understand. These pirates might be dominant at sea, but once they're on land, they're timid. So they don't dare come on land. Because if they did, even if I didn't do anything, Sandow alone could finish them off." Su Yuehua shook her head. "Second brother Su, I don't think you answered Ning Qingshue's question. These pirates would only do things for their benefit. Destroying our ports and ships holds no benefits for them. They would only get those benefits if they tried to reach land, yet they didn't. I think second brother Su is partially right, but there's another possibility too. They might have come to an agreement with someone and agreed to stop the construction of our city. Then there's yet another possibility. They might be waiting for backup. Once that backup arrives, that's when they would come on land and raid our city. Then what do we do, Sister Yuehua?" Luo Fei quickly asked. Su Yuehua sighed. "We can only hope Guiqi and company can stop them for a while and wait for the city lord to come back. We can't stop the pirates' attack in any other way. We had too little time. If we had a year or two more, Yi Xing could design a Luo Yu that's like a metal bucket. Besides, do you really think they're mere pirates? I don't think it's that simple." Guiqi and Fong Wei stood on the deck of a ship as they looked at the pirate ships through their telescopes. They had never experienced a sea battle before. Although they had been in the special forces, they had usually fought in forests and knew nothing about sea battles. "Brother Gua, when do you think their next attack will come?" Fong Wei walked over with red eyes. Guiqi shook his head. "Seriously, I don't know, but I'm sure that these pirates didn't use their full power yet. Their ships are better than ours. Where do you think they got such good ships? We've seen reports of the Somali pirates. They're just a bunch of criminals driving jet skis with a couple of rocket launchers. Since when do pirates have such fierce weapons? I'm sure some country is behind this. We're not good at sea battles, so we can only wait for Brother Yi to come back." "You're saying that they haven't used their full power yet?" Fong Wei cried in surprise. Guiqi nodded. "Yes, if they had attacked with full power, we wouldn't even have lasted till today. We're lacking a commander for sea battles, and we have very few battleships. We don't have submarines nor planes. Without air support, doing sea battles is like being a bird without wings. Luckily, the pirates don't have airplanes either, or we would only be able to run." "Captain, the radar shows signs of attack again." A soldier ran up quickly and reported. Most of these Marines were Li Sandow's men. Li Sandow knew sea battles better than the people from Flowing Snake, after all. "Cannons ready." Guiqi's face didn't look too good. He wasn't afraid of war, but he sure didn't like this feeling of being suppressed. Ooh. After Yi Mo broke through to stage 5, he shot into the sky on his flying sword and appeared above Luo Yu only 20 minutes later. The scene he witnessed, though, made him furious. A fleet of ships was charging towards Luo Yu fearlessly. It obviously had very strong ships. Appearing weak meant getting beaten. He had only been out for a few days, yet people were already acting cocky at his doorstep. Although Yi Mo didn't know who would be commanding his side's fleet, he knew that no matter who was commanding it, they would be no match for the enemy. The main ship of this black fleet looked around 100 meters long. Although Yi Mo didn't know maritime warfare, he could guess that this ship had to be the commanding ship, so without thinking any further, he charged down towards that ship. At the same time, in that ship's command center, a short-haired man stared deadly at the radar screen and kept frowning. "What's going on, David?" An officer came in and asked. "General Lewis, I just saw a target on the radar, but it disappeared immediately. I'm sure that I didn't see wrong, though. This place is very eerie. David replied. At this moment, Yi Mo had landed outside the command center and considered that if he went invisible, the radar might not detect him. David, has your head been stuffed by women too much? This battle is very simple. When Commander Sean comes, we will be able to attack on land. I heard that there's quite a lot of beautiful women in Luoyu, so at that time, you can enjoy as much as you want. Lewis's joke didn't make David feel assured, as he still looked at the radar carefully. Yi Mo passed by many Marines before entering the command center. Then he appeared and said, "No need to be attacking any land. You're called Lewis? Why do you look like a pig?" Yi Mo's sudden appearance sent the command center into chaos. Lewis might be fat, but he reacted immediately and yelled, "Kill him!" 2 Marines pulled out their guns, but before they could even raise it, they were sliced up by Yi Mo's wind blade. Lewis looked at the bloody bodies and didn't know what to say. He was shocked. The sound of more desperate footsteps sounded as a few more Marines charged in. Yi Mo didn't have any mercy and cut them all with his wind blades. He was stage 5 now, and he wouldn't feel pressured even if he used 100 or so wind blades at the same time. The sound of more desperate footsteps sounded as a few more Marines charged in. Yi Mo didn't have any mercy and cut them all with his wind blades. He was stage 5 now, and he wouldn't feel pressured even if he used 100 or so wind blades at the same time. Lewis saw that Yi Mo had just waved his hand, and his fully armed soldiers fell down one by one, and he couldn't even stand up. He lied collapsed on the floor. David and the 2 other technical engineers inside the room also witnessed this eerie scene in shock. Yi Mo hadn't killed the commanding officers in there yet, though. The command center was bloodied, but no one dared make a sound. Does any of you here understand Chinese? Yi Mo scanned the rest and asked. A half-Chinese man stood up and said hesitantly, "I'm from China. I understand Chinese." Yi Mo looked at the man in contempt and said, "Who's the commanding officer here? Make him make all your ships stop." The man conveyed the message to the other 2. Then the fat man understood what was up and spoke in something that was obviously not English. Yi Mo frowned and asked the translator, "What did that pig say?" The man quickly answered. "He asked who you are and why you came here, killing so many of our men. There's no way he would surrender." "Oh, dash!" Yi Mo waved his hand, and a wind blade sliced that Lewis in half. Then he turned back to the half-blood and said, "Ask who else doesn't want to surrender." The man translated, and the remaining 2 quickly said they would surrender. Yi Mo gave them a few black pills and said, "I'm going to keep killing those who don't surrender for now. After you eat that, put up a white flag. This is poison. If you truly surrender, I will give you the antidote. Otherwise, you can go die." The 3 all ate it and promised they would truly surrender. Before they finished talking, though, Yi Mo had already dashed out of the command center. "Who is he?" "God, he's a demon," the tall, skinny white man said after Yi Mo left. David sneered. "Didn't I say there's a lot of people with magical powers in China? See, I was right. This person is definitely a mutant. I'm sure that it was him that the radar had scanned at first, but he could even hide from the radar. Li Lan, is he a mutant?" Li Lan, who was the half-blooded man, shook his head and didn't reply. Just as the 3 were getting anxious, Yi Mo came back and asked David, "Who's the commanding officer here?" "The highest was Lewis before. David is the second in command," Li Lan said. "I see. You and David can come with me." Then Yi Mo pointed at the 2. The 2 didn't dare resist at all and followed Yi Mo to the deck, notifying all crew members to gather. "David, announce your surrender and make them put down their weapons," Yi Mo said coldly. The couple of 100 people present heard that and exploded in fury. They clearly had the advantage, and with one charge, Luo, you would be theirs. Why surrender? Many officers charged out and yelled, "Why are we surrendering? We want to see General Lewis dash." Yemo wouldn't give them the chance to keep talking. So before they finished, Yemo sent out tens of wind blades, and they were all sliced in half. The sea wind spread the smell of blood, and the atmosphere on deck got quite ghastly. The boisterous scene from before turned extremely silent with the tens of bodies sliced in half laying around. This wasn't an era where war was common after all. This bloody scene was too much for a lot of Marines to handle. Some even started puking. This time Li Lan knew what he needed to do. He felt that Yemo didn't really like him. So he quickly called out, this decision to surrender was made by Vice Commander David. Who dares not surrender? Come forward. Yemo nodded in satisfaction. He thought that it was lucky for this Li Lan that he had some eyes, or he would be the first Yemo would kill. David, I'll leave this place to you. Make them understand the situation. You and Li Lan come to the second ship, then Yemo went to the second ship. As though sensing the anomaly on the commanding ship, the other ships were all ready for battle, but Yemo controlled the captains just like before and killed all those who resisted. Just tens of minutes later, Yemo had controlled the entire fleet. An hour later, Yemo had acquired a patrol ship, 2 chasing ships, 2 normal ships, and 4 guard ships. 2 nuclear-powered submarines had escaped, though. We'll go back and fire at him. He's just one man by himself. When one ship's crew realized that Yemo was just by himself, they wanted to turn back to him. Yemo sneered and turned invisible before appearing on that ship. The people aboard saw how Yemo was clearly on the other ship just a moment before, far away from them. How had he suddenly appeared on their ship? No one could even react. Yemo knew that if he didn't keep killing, more people would rebel. Yemo had only killed 13 men before, and there were still about 300 remaining. So now, Yemo flung out wind blades as the Marines were like balls, either killed or kicked into the water. A few people who reacted quickly had opened fire, but they still couldn't avoid their fate. The other ship's captain, who had also been planning to rebel, subconsciously ducked his head and put away the gun in his hands. He had the feeling that the moment he opened fire, he would just be the first to die. He was screaming in his heart, "Is this guy still human?" This was out of everyone's comprehension. Seeing Yemo's ferocity, many Marines who had still been struggling before didn't dare move anymore. One Marine saw that one of his colleagues was swimming to his ship and wanted to throw out a rope, but as soon as he did, he was sliced in half and fell into the sea. Seeing this, no one dared move again at all. Yemo had decided that if any other ship rebelled, he would immediately kill them all. Guichi suddenly saw that the incoming black ship had raised a white flag. Just as he thought his sight was getting blurry, his troops reported the same thing as well. Guichi now realized that he had seen right. Was this a scheme? But what would raising a white flag do? Let's go over and check. Guichi waved his hand. It's Brother Yi. I can see him. Fong Wei put down the telescope in excitement. Guichi also saw Yemo and became excited. So their big boss had attacked. No wonder those fearsome pirates had surrendered. Go over as fast as possible. Guichi no longer felt stressed and waved his hand in excitement. It seemed that Yemo had controlled all of their ships, and if this fleet joined Luoyu, their maritime power would increase many folds. Yemo waved his hand. All these ships belong to us now. Take care of the surrendered Marines and kill those who resist. We'll talk about other things once we get back to shore. Brother Yi, a Chinese man, says that he has something very important to tell you. After all the ships had been controlled, Fong Wei rushed inside and reported this. Brother Yi, a Chinese man, says that he has something very important to tell you. After all the ships had been controlled, Fong Wei rushed inside and reported this. Something very important. Yemo thought, The ships were his, and all the rebellious pirates had been killed. What was the matter then? Tell him to come over. Although he didn't know what it was about, he might as well hear the person. If it was some absurd request, he would kick him into the sea. Soon Fong Wei brought a man that seemed to be in his 50s. Yi Mo estimated that he was only in his 40s, but due to staying in the sea for a long time he seemed older. His eyebrows were thick. "I'm Huang Yinian, city leader Yi." The man saluted with his fist. Yi Mo nodded. "Huang Yinian, you don't belong with the rest of the men that were on board, right? Tell me, what is the important matter you need to tell me? If you don't talk, then you'll be joining the others at the bottom of the sea. The main members of the Black Fleet aren't pirates. Although there are very few of them like me," Huang Yinian said. Yi Mo nodded. He didn't doubt that. Seeing this, Huang Yinian continued. "Ever since I heard of Luo Yu City, I always wanted to join, but I didn't have the chance. I had no means of coming here, so I couldn't leave my life behind. Although we do welcome all sorts of people to help build Luo Yu, not everyone can come. We don't welcome pirates like you," Yi Mo said plainly. He could tell that Huang Yinian was capable. The reason Yi Mo captured the 2,000 Marines wasn't because he was merciful, but because he really needed a lot of people to build Luo Yu. These people were free labor. For those who truly and wholeheartedly surrendered, he could arrange for them to join the Luo Yu Navy. Huang Yinian wasn't discouraged. He took a deep breath and said, "I know. Allow me to introduce myself. I was born in Dalian, China, and I went with my parents to the U.S. when I was 11. I joined the naval school at the age of 17. I started to serve in the 7th Fleet when I was 21. 2 years later, I went to war and gathered enough laurels to be appointed sergeant. Within the next 8 years, I went to secret wars for the U.S. and became brigadier general. But because I was Chinese, the Americans had their concerns. Then, the next year, I received an order to take a fleet to China for a mission. When I received the mission, I refused. I was still Chinese despite serving in the U.S. military." Yi Mo smiled. "You managed to reach brigadier general in less than 20 years. I believe in your naval skills. The reason the Americans gave you such sensitive order at a time like this was probably because they recognize your skills and wanted to do more with you. They sent you in this mission to test you." Huang Yinian looked at Yi Mo in shock. He had only realized that afterwards. At the time, he had just refused that order. He nodded in despair. "Regardless, I wouldn't lead a U.S. fleet to attack China. After I rejected that mission, I wasn't given any more missions. The next year, my parents died in a strange shooting. I suspected that it had something to do with the government, but I had no evidence. I was tired of the country. I was prepared to sell all my assets and go back to China. But then I realized that my bank account had been frozen. They said that my parents had been involved in money laundering and needed to be investigated. That year, my wife took my daughter and divorced with me. I was full of despair, and I was prepared to give up my wealth to leave the U.S., but I was denied my leave." Yi Mo sneered. "They somehow held you prisoner. In the case of someone like Huang Yinian, even if the U.S. couldn't use him, they wouldn't just let him go to another country, much less China." Huang Yinian nodded. "Yes, I realized that when I was denied to leave the country, but I wasn't going to give up just like that. There months later, I escaped the U.S. on a cargo ship. This ship happened to be attacked by pirates, so I decided in that time to join the pirates. I didn't go back to China. I knew that even if I went back, I might be sent back to the U.S. "So, you stayed a pirate for almost a decade?" Yi Mo asked. Huang Yinian said, "Yes. However, I've been wanting to rejoin an actual fleet, the naval army. I so passionately love all this time. I saw that, Luo, you didn't know anything about naval battles at all from this campaign. So I wish to join Luo Yu and contribute to the naval army." Then Huang Yinian looked at Yi Mo and said again, "Don't ask me why. I'm simply Chinese, and so are you. You said that Chinese would have special considerations when moving to Luoyu. I know of your ideals, and they're the same as mine. I don't want to stay a pirate forever. Yi Mo thought for a moment and said, I can let you join Luoyu, but I still need to test you to see if you can become a part of our navy. If you're willing to be tested by me, close your eyes and let go of the control over your mind. Huang Yinian did, as Yi Mo said without hesitation. Yi Mo nodded and used his means to ask Huang Yinian a few questions. Everything was just as he had told him before. Yi Mo woke Huang Yinian up and said, Okay, Huang Yinian, since you're genuine, I will allow you to join Luoyu City. You will be the commander of our navy, responsible for Luoyu's power at sea. I hope you will do as well as you promise. Yes, City Lord. Huang Yinian saluted. Although he had managed to join Luoyu, he still felt fear towards Yi Mo for his means. Luckily, he had spoken the truth. If he had been a spy, he would be dead already. Yi Mo called Guiqi and told him that Huang Yinian would be the commander of their navy. Guiqi was to return to land. Guiqi was very happy. He knew he wasn't made for navy battles and immediately handed Huang Yinian full control over the navy. Huang Yinian, do you know if it's the U.S. who attacked Luoyu this time? Yi Mo voiced his suspicions. Huang Yinian shook his head. This wasn't the U.S.'s fleet. I don't know which country sent them, though. I was only a small boss among pirates, so I wasn't let in on a lot of matters. Yi Mo waved his hand. Then he called David and Lilan. Which country do you come from? Yi Mo asked. David and Lilan looked at each other. Then David used his broken Chinese to reply. Indonesia. Yi Mo frowned. Why were they attacking Luoyu? He hadn't offended them. Had he? You're Indonesian? Why are you attacking us? Yi Mo's face sunk. No, Lilan explained. We're not an Indonesian force. Only a part of us are. We hail from the Blue Ray Corporation in Africa. We were hired. The Indonesians hate the Chinese. So since they heard that some Chinese had taken over Sai-na, they dash. Yi Mo was speechless. Lilan glanced at Yi Mo carefully and then said, Us and the pirates were all just hired by Indonesia, except for Captain Lewis and some Indonesian troops. They wanted to attack Luoyu and then suck up to the U.S. Yi Mo sneered. That would never have ended well. The U.S. wanted nothing more, but for Luoyu to build faster. How could they appreciate these guys attacking Luoyu? The decision-maker for Indonesia was an idiot. Okay, Fong Wei, get the Indonesian soldiers to start working at the construction sites. If they don't do enough work, don't give them food. If they feel like starting a riot, kill them. Yi Mo had no mercy for these people. Okay, Fong Wei, get the Indonesian soldiers to start working at the construction sites. If they don't do enough work, don't give them food. If they feel like starting a riot, kill them. Yi Mo had no mercy for these people. Yes, Brother Yi. Just as Yi Mo walked onto the dock, he received news that Sui Wehua and company were waiting for him near the docks. No one expected that such a disastrous predicament would be solved the moment Yi Mo appeared. After hearing what Yi Mo did, Yi Mo became someone who could do anything in their minds. Yi Mo. Ning Qingshue's eyes were red. She walked over and held Yi Mo's hand, but didn't say anything. She knew that if those pirates had succeeded at entering land, she would only have been able to commit suicide. Otherwise, with her appearance, her outcome would have been horrendous. We'll talk when we're back home. Yi Mo patted Ning Qingshue's hand and felt guilty. He couldn't even let the people around him live in safety. Sandow, bring these captives to the construction sites. Guiqi, organize the ships and report back. Commander Huang, come with me to the meeting room. Yi Mo was angry, but he knew now wasn't the time for revenge. He would visit those who tried to reap benefits from Luoyu one by one later on. The meeting room was full once again, but unlike before, Yi Mo had returned. I present to you the man who will be the commander of Luo Yu's navy from now on, Mr. Huang Yinian, Yi Mo introduced. This time's perpetrators were the Blue Ray Corporation from South Africa and some pirates, but the real mastermind was Indonesia. I took a closer look at the map, and Indonesia is indeed very close to us. Then Yi Mo looked at everyone and said, if anyone has any ideas on how to react, please speak up. Su Yuehua knew what Yi Mo meant. She knew that Yi Mo looked calm on the surface, but was planning on mercilessly killing all the people who had offended him. I suggest we simply announce that we shall investigate the party responsible for the attack and proclaim that we will react with military action. Right now, our main goal is to build Luo Yu and not to fight, Su Yuehua said. Yi Mo nodded. I agree. We don't have that power now anyways. Then everyone voiced their opinions, and Yi Xing insisted on building an aerial defense system first. Yi Mo knew that would cost money, large amounts of it. Eventually, everyone agreed on their respective main jobs and left. Yi Mo would also be getting busy because people had come for the Luo Yu Immortal Hospital again. After the meeting, Yi Mo and Ning Qingxue wanted to talk, but then Luo Fei and Luo Yin came. Yi Mo, we're leaving Luo Yu. We're here to say goodbye, Luo Yin said. You're going? Why? Is it because of the inner qi restriction inside of you? I can now remove it for you if you want. Yi Mo was confident he would be able to do it. Luo Yin shook her head. Thank you, but I must go back. The 3 years' time is about to be up. I'm worried about Luo Shua. Also, our master will be very sad if we don't go back. Yi Mo didn't try to dissuade them. With the announcement of Luo Yu preparing to use military means, the world's gaze was once again focused on Luo Yu. The media felt astonished that Luo Yu had the power to defend against a fleet of ships and to even take them all down. No one knew how Luo Yu had done it. America was the angriest when they found out that it was Indonesia who had attacked Luo Yu. They were furious. The U.S. cared even more about Luo Yu than about the Black Sun Empire or the UFO on the Pacific. They just wanted the recipe for the health pill. With it, their soldiers' power would increase many times over without any side effects. They wouldn't have the money to purchase the pills on a large scale, so they were determined to take Luo Yu. But just as their foreign affairs minister arrived at Indonesia to warn them, he got the news that Indonesia's ships had been completely defeated. Although this was what the U.S. had hoped for, they became suspicious again. How did some newcomer company beat a fleet of ships? They had to investigate this matter up to the most minuscule of details of the battle. Yi Mo was waiting to destroy Indonesia's fighter jets as soon as they came, but contrary to his expectations, Indonesia didn't do anything for a whole week. However, there were spies and journalists from all over the world rushing over. As to these people, Yi Mo only had one order: capture them to help with the construction. Those who resisted were to be killed. Yi Mo's decision made many people stop their tracks. However, a certain famous news channel reported that Luo Yu abused people like slaves and disregarded human rights. They even managed to get some photos of the construction sites. But Yi Mo ignored this. The U.S. government had to stand up for this, though, so they requested Luo Yu to release the slaves, but they were also annoyed by the news channel being so nosy. To them, the more slaves, the better. So the U.S. government only reproached a little and didn't say that much of it. Some people were unhappy with the U.S.'s response, and soon news of U.S. soldiers abusing Iraqi captives were released as well. Yi Mo didn't care about these verbal battles. He just kept on doing what he needed to do. Yi Mo was busy these couple of days because although Yi Xing was designing the city and Su Yuehua was responsible for building it, he still needed to go around and check if there were areas that needed to be modified for laying down formations in the future. One day, Just as Emo got to the naval training grounds, Fong Wei rushed over. "Brother Yi, someone says she's your friend, and she's waiting for you in the guest hall." "Why are you here?" Yi Emo went to the meeting room and saw it was Han Yen. She sat there anxiously. She was at black level stage now and should be with her sect. Although he didn't know why she had come, he realized she must have something important to say. "Why are you here?" Yi Emo went to the meeting room and saw it was Han Yen. She sat there anxiously. She was at black level stage now and should be with her sect. Although he didn't know why she had come, he realized she must have something important to say. Seeing Yi Emo walk in, Han Yen got up immediately. Her expression was uneasy and said, "Brother Yi, my grandpa sent me here to ask you if you need help. If you do, you can just call him. Whether it's military or financial support, he can provide you some help with handling the country." Although he knew that Elder Han meant weapons and not sending armies, Yi Emo was still grateful. To be willing to offer help, it meant that he really considered him a friend. Although Elder Han had an important status in the Chinese military, it would still be a lot of pressure for him to say this. Yi Emo told Han Yen to sit down and said, "Thank Elder Han for me. I don't need any help. However, if I do, I won't hesitate to ask for help. But why are you so uneasy?" "I haven't asked Elder Han for help yet." Han Yen waved her hand. "It's not because of this that I'm here. That was just my grandpa asking me to bring you that message. I want you to help me with something else." Then Han Yen said hesitantly, "My sect no longer has the appropriate conditions to train due to pollution. My master is very troubled. It's very hard to switch locations, especially among the hidden sections." Pollution? Yi Emo felt it was odd. He had been to many hidden sects such as Serenity or Jiansang, and these places were very hidden and very far away. Pollution wouldn't even be able to reach there. Han Yen nodded, and "It's because there's a silver mine near our place. It's being dug up now, and pollution is flowing upstream. There's some foreign papermaking factory which is releasing large amounts of waste and hacking down a lot of trees nearby. Because of that, our environment is getting worse and worse." Han Yen looked up and said, "Brother Yi, this place is yours now, and it is so pretty. Can we move here? You want to move to Luoyu?" Yi Emo looked strange. Hidden sects usually needed to remain hidden. Although Luoyu had a quite nice natural environment, as time went by there would be more people. Then it wouldn't be hidden anymore. And Han Yen nodded and then said, "I still haven't told my master, but seeing how my master's worries, I came to ask you first. If you agree, then I will go back and tell my master. Also, my master just wants a quiet place. He doesn't really care if it's hidden. I fell in love with this place as soon as I came, and I think my master will love it here." Yi Emo smiled. "Luoyu has a very small population at the moment, but it has a lot of land. Of course, I welcome you to stay. I will find someone to show you around. If you like it here, then find a quiet place and settle. I will ask Sister Yuehua to help." Seeing this, Han Yen stood up excitedly. "Thank you, Brother Yi. I still have some money from the tournament from last time. I can build our own place with it. I will go back and discuss this with my master. Afterwards, I'll come talk to you about it. By the way, Brother Yi, my grandpa also said that he found where the rest of the blueprints of the space flower are. They are said to be at a base in Taiwan. The Americans also know of its whereabouts and are actively trying to get it." Han Yen said, "Did your grandpa send people to get it?" Yi Emo asked with a frown. Han Yen shook her head. "Not yet, but he will soon. My grandpa said that if you're interested you can go together, but if you're too busy, then never mind." Yi Emo got up and looked at Han Yen and said, "Han Yen, I won't lie to you, nor take my words back. If your grandpa trusts me, then tell him not to go find that blueprint. Even if he finds it, it would be useless. Moreover, that blueprint can't be found that easily. People would only be hurt if they went, there's no need. Why? Han, Yen asked in confusion. Before Yi Mo had agreed to go help find the blueprint. So why was he saying now that it was useless? Yi Mo shook his head and didn't answer. Seeing this made Han Yen a bit disappointed, but she knew that if Yi Mo could answer, he would. Since he didn't, it meant that he had his concerns. She only had to take his words back. Although he couldn't reply to that, Yi Mo still found Sankai and told him to accompany Han Yen. Sankai had been Lang Ji's man in the past, and he followed Li Sandao after Lang Ji died. After Han Yen left, Yi Mo sunk into contemplation. Since Han Yan's sect was willing to come to Luoyu, what about the other hidden sects? Luoyu had very large pieces of land, and the more people the better. Yi Mo wouldn't reject those sects who wanted to come to Luoyu. Yi Mo was quite grateful for Elder Han's goodwill. There were so many news about Luoyu recently, he would have heard of it for sure, and he still offered his help. Yi Mo wasn't going to intervene with the blueprint anymore for sure. Yi Xing had designed it, and he was already there. If he had enough time, he could design it again. Furthermore, the critical flaw of the blueprint was the need of an extreme energy stone. Without it, it couldn't be operated. No matter how advanced it was, if it couldn't be operated, it would be waste of time. Even in the case of Han Zaixin, if Yi Mo told him that Yi Xing had designed the space flower and that he was in Luoyu, it would harm both Yi Xing and Luoyu. Also, he already warned Han Zaixin. If he didn't believe him, then there was nothing he could do about it. With San Cai's guidance, Han Yen found a place she liked after a few days and named it the Guanghan Mountain after her sect, the Guanghan sect. As soon as she left, new people arrived. This time it was the Blue Ray Corporation from South Africa. They were a renowned mercenary company. Yi Mo saw two people entering the guest hall. One was a white-faced man that was less than 40 years old. He was dressed very well, but his eyes made Yi Mo uncomfortable. They were dodgy. The second one was a young woman in her 20s. She had blonde hair and blue eyes, and her skin was very good. Mr. Yi, hello, I'm Dongfang Tang, and this is my assistant Shauna. I've heard of you and your power before, but I didn't expect you to be so young. It's my honor to be able to see you. The man spoke fluent Chinese. Yi Mo could tell he was Chinese. Dongfang Tang? Yi Mo immediately thought of Dongfang Shi. He felt that the two men had something in common. Mr. Yi, greetings, I'm Shauna. It's a pleasure to meet you. Her Chinese wasn't fluent, and she had a Western accent. Please have a seat. Yi Mo pointed at one of the chairs, but didn't shake hands with them. Seeing this, Dongfang Tang's face went stale, but he quickly managed to keep a straight face and sat down as though nothing had happened. Shauna was dazed for a moment. She thought Yi Mo was very impolite, but she wasn't the person in charge of negotiation, and so she didn't say anything. Yi Mo had seen the change in Dongfang Tang's expression. It had just been a moment, but it couldn't escape his spirit sense. Yi Mo wasn't sure if he was related to Dongfang Shi, but he was sure he wasn't someone easy to deal with. Seeing that Yi Mo just sat down without saying anything, Dongfang Shi grinned and said again, Mr. Yi, I'm representing Blue Ray Corporation to discuss some business with you. Yi Mo said plainly, Blue Ray Corporation? Never heard of it. Dongfang Tang's expression finally looked angry. Blue Ray Corporation was a renowned mercenary company all over the world, but Yi Mo had claimed he'd never heard of it. This was a slap in the face. Moreover, a lot of people from their company were being kept by Luoyu. Even if he hadn't heard of it before, he would have heard of it by now. Dongfang Tang's expression finally looked angry. Blue Ray Corporation was a renowned mercenary company all over the world, but Yi Mo had claimed he'd never heard of it. This was a slap in the face. Moreover, a lot of people from their company were being kept by Luoyu. Even if he hadn't heard of it before, he would have heard of it by now. Yi Mo sneered. Although Dongfang Tang was not bad, he still seemed a bit immature. Why would the corporation send someone who couldn't control his facial expressions? Yi Mo subconsciously looked at Shauna and thought that perhaps he had showed that face for Shauna to see. If that was the case, then Dongfang Tang was craftier than Dongfang Shi. Dongfang Tang took a little longer to recover his composure this time. He felt Yi Mo was no easy target for negotiation. Mr. Yi, then we'll be straightforward. Due to a recent minor conflict with you, some of the people from our corporation are being held here. Although this is a misunderstanding, it's still our fault. We're willing to compensate you for your losses, as long as you let us bring back our people, Dongfang Tang said. Yi Mo frowned. Your people had conflict with us? How come? I don't know. I think you're mistaken. If it's just this, please leave. Seeing that Shauna still sat there without saying anything, Dongfang Tang could only add, of course, our company wouldn't get into a conflict with you. It is well known that we're just a security company. Sometimes we get paid in order to help our clients get some things done. The reason why our people were sent here was due to others hiring us. Yi Mo disapproved quietly. Calling a mercenary corporation a security company was truly shameless. Yi Mo said casually, "Oh, can you explain the situation to me meticulously? You're the first one I'm hearing this from." Dongfang Tang didn't expect that Yi Mo would force him to admit things. He sunk into silence indecisively. One thing was recognizing that they were involved, another thing was admitting who had led the attack. All the world was reporting about the pirate fleet attacks on Luoyu. But anyone who wasn't an idiot would know that it wasn't a regular pirate attack. Since when did they have their own fleets? A country was attacking Luoyu, for sure. As long as Luoyu didn't point fingers, other people wouldn't. Even the most audacious news channel wouldn't dare to guess which country did it without definite evidence. If it got exposed, it would become an international conflict. The fact that Yi Mo had asked this meant that he wanted Dongfang Tang to reveal who was the mastermind behind it. Luoyu had the power to annihilate a fleet. Who knows if they would use it as an excuse to start a war? Although he knew that Luoyu City didn't have the power or the guts to do it, Dongfang Tang still didn't dare say it. It happened like this. We saw news reports about your city being attacked by a fleet. So we later on realized that it had been low-level people from our company that contacted the pirates to invade Luoyu. We express our deep apologies for this, and we would like to show our genuine contrite. Dongfang Tang talked about it, but still managed not to involve Indonesia. Slap. Yi Mo stood up and said coldly, "So, you're saying it was Blue Ray Corporation that attacked Luoyu City? Don't you dare put the blame on some pirates. I will go to your corporation. And since you dared try to invade Luoyu, don't blame me for attacking your bay." Dongfang Tang was shook. He hadn't expected Yi Mo to suddenly change his expression so drastically. Moreover, he had spoke of the bay, which meant that he had investigated where their corporation stored their mercenaries. In that case, there's nothing to discuss between us. Goodbye. Dongfang Tang stood up and turned away to leave. Yi Mo added coldly, "Tell your General Kuyu that in a week I will turn the South African Bay into a bloodbath. Tell him to prepare himself." Dongfang Tang almost stumbled on these words. A bloodbath in their bay. Did he not think their thousands of mercenaries were humans? But from his words it was more than clear that he had thoroughly investigated them, and that he even knew who the general was. He still wanted to add something, but Dongfang Tang knew that he couldn't negotiate with Yi Mo anymore. He had nothing to negotiate with. Seeing the two visitors leave in a hurry, Yi Mo sneered. He was sure that Kuyu would come to Luoyu. Although it was partially a threat, if Kuyu didn't come, he would actually annihilate his corporation. As for the Indonesian Navy, he wouldn't do anything about it yet. Yi Mo wanted to wait until Luoyu's defenses were perfected before he crippling their navy. He had never been someone who would suck it up after getting attacked. This was his principle in the cultivation realm. A peaceful life couldn't be attained by being timid. It was won with power Yi Emo walked out of the guest hall and saw Huang Yinian and Guiqi approaching him hurriedly with 30 or 40 people, yet they didn't seem worried. They were excited instead. Brother Yi, these people are mercenaries from the Blue Ray Corporation. They wish to join Luo Yu, so I brought them over. Many of them are good soldiers. Guiqi pointed at the people behind him. Yes, City Lord, some of their naval capabilities are no lesser than mine. They were hired for a high price, and some of them are also Air Force and on-land special soldiers. They joined the mercenary corporation for money, Huang Yinian said quickly. He saw Yi Mo studying these people, so Huang Yinian, after a moment, quickly pointed at a black man and said, "He's Mike's son, originally a captain of the 6th U.S. Fleet, but got sacked due to a critical error. He came to the mercenary company to earn some money. The thin, tall one behind him is called Tony. He was a lieutenant in the British Air Force. His wife had an affair with one of his higher-ups, and he caught them. So he killed them and escaped to the mercenary corporation to get rich." Huang Yinian pointed at the men one by one, and Yi Mo soon found out that each and every one of them had their own story. All of them had been elite members in the army. Yi Mo now realized why the Blue Ray Corporation wanted them back. They had been hired for a hefty price. "Okay, Commander Huang, Captain Gua, you can assign them to their respective roles. We don't have planes nor an air force for now, but it's only a matter of time. Let Tony be responsible for the Air Force establishment. And if any of these people wish to live in Luo Yu long term, they can have their own piece of land and bring their families here." Yi Mo called the shot. Not even Blue Ray Corporation wanted to give these people up. Yi Mo paused for a moment and commented, "If there are still people like them that wish to stay in Luo Yu, we will welcome them greatly. Their treatment will be at the very least as good as the corporation they worked on before. We are the most profitable business in the world." Yes, Huang Yinian took these people and left. Yi Mo was very happy that Luo Yu's military was beginning to take form. He was sure that once Luo Yu could protect itself, with him and Yi Xing, all the money in the world would flow to Luo Yu. Meanwhile, Kuyu was walking around in circles. He regretted taking that mission from Indonesia. They had earned many times hundreds of millions by settling conflicts within countries, but this time they had lost their entire army. Kuyu had thought a city newly established by some company would have no battle power to worry about, but unexpectedly reality was this different from what he had anticipated. Kuyu had thought a city newly established by some company would have no battle power to worry about, but unexpectedly reality was this different from what he had anticipated. He might have only sent 500 people, but they were all elites of the corporation. And now they were all captured. The most they had ever lost in the past was a little over 10. Although he didn't want to send people to negotiate with Luo Yu, their loss was simply too great. Indonesia wasn't doing anything either. Instead, they told them to negotiate with Luo Yu to win back the fleet and captured soldiers. This made Kuyu very annoyed. He didn't want to listen to those Indonesian officials, but he had to. If he didn't get his people back, his squadron's battle power would decrease greatly. Soldiers were always found easily, but not elite fighters. Dongfeng Tang and Shauna's expressions weren't too good. Kuyu didn't have to ask anything to be able to tell the result from their face. "Sit down and tell me how it went. Have they already rejected?" Kuyu poured 2 cups of water for them. At that moment, Dongfeng Tang realized that he hadn't even gotten a cup of water from Luo Yu. He reported Yi Mo's arrogant attitude and words exactly. Slam. Kuyu slammed the table. Yi Mo was that rude and was supposedly going to turn his bay into a bloodbath. Such arrogance. Kuyu's face was full of killing intent. Ever since their corporation was established, they had been through countless conflicts and wars. Other than one mission in 2001, they had never failed before. Even small countries didn't dare utter such words to them. Yet a mere pharmaceutical company dared to imagine turning them into bloodbaths and whatnot. They were too cocky. Find Edward. I will turn his Luo Yu into a bloodbath before he can even try it with us. Kuyu was furious. No need. I'm here. A robust white man walked in. He was very sturdy and had curly hair. He had the typical soldier look. Edward was the advisor of Blue Ray Corporation, a very experienced soldier. He walked in and sat down. After Kuyu also sat down, he said slowly, General Kuyu, I heard Dongfang Tang's words just now. Although I'm also very angry we can't deal with things like you said. First of all, it's unsure whether we can even turn Luo Yu into a bloodbath, but besides that our corporation was built for making money. Bathing Luo Yu in blood will only make us a target for international persecution. It won't benefit us in any way. Edward looked at Dongfang Tang and said again, we mercenaries live for one purpose only, money. None of our soldiers want to do something that won't bring any profit. Mr. Dongfang, you come from China, and so does Luo Yu. How do you think we should deal with matters? Dongfang Tang didn't expect Edward would ask him, but he quickly said, although I like General Kuyu's idea, I believe that if we act like that, our corporation will be destroyed. If Luo Yu was able to annihilate the Indonesian fleet with so many of our elites on it, then I don't think their military power is any less than ours. Thus, there's no benefit for us in solving things with fighting. Edward nodded. Yes, we lost very strangely. The news I received was that a few days before the battle we managed to sink 3 of their patrol boats. Yet on the 5th day of the battle, our fleet suddenly surrendered. The report I got was that they captured both General Lewis and Commander David. These people then made everyone surrender. But I know things weren't as simple as that. You're saying Kuyu knew it was impossible to solve things with war, but he was just angry. Edward said carefully, I don't think that Yi Mo is lying. He really does have the power to massacre us. Kuyu frowned. Edward, aren't you exaggerating things a bit too much out of anxiousness? He still believed that it was nothing but a joke that Luo Yu would be capable of eradicating them. Edward shook his head. No, I'm not being overly anxious at all. We're not far from the ocean, and we have neither navy nor air force. At most, we're a strong land force. Luo Ying managed to beat an entire fleet. No matter what means they used, that means that their naval power has to be rather strong. So, they could just barrage us with cannons and not care about the consequences. Kuyu sunk into silence. After hearing Edward and Dongfang Tang's words, he felt that things might really be as Yi Mo said. Isn't Yi Mo the president of Luo Yu? Kuyu suddenly asked. Dongfang Tang nodded. Yes, we've investigated him. He seems to be very famous among the Chinese higher-ups. I've also heard that Northern Sand had negotiations with him. I don't know why exactly, but even Northern Sand seemed to be concerned about him. What? Northern Sand feels concerned about Yi Mo? Kuyu was shocked and subconsciously looked at Edward. He knew that a mercenary corporation like his was nothing but an insect in front of Northern Sand. Edward nodded. That is the case. This Yi Mo isn't simple at all, and his origins are pretty odd. It seems he was just some young master in Beijing in the past. Of course, for now, I don't think we need to keep investigating him. Since we know of his power, the first thing we need to do is to keep negotiating with him at Luo Yu. But he clearly doesn't want to negotiate with us, Kuyu said with frustration. Dongfang Tang shook his head. This Kuyu was a brainless idiot. He was a far cry from his father. In the past, under the lead of his father, Blue Ray Corporation had dominated wherever they went. If it wasn't for his dad dying in that mission in 2001, how would they ever be led by a brainless idiot like Kuyu? Not only was he impetuous, but he had even leaked secrets to women many times. Edward didn't mind Kuyu's reaction and continued, I believe the reason why Yemo didn't agree is because we didn't satisfy his needs. It's not as simple as getting our men back now. We need to think of how we can make him happy. Mr. Dongfang, what is it he wants? He wants us to admit that the real mastermind was Indonesia. Since I didn't, we couldn't continue our negotiations, Dongfang Tang replied. Edward said nonchalantly, there's nothing wrong with doing that, though. We're mercenaries, not assassins. So with our safety being at stake, we should negotiate with him again. Luo Yu apparently has strong naval power and is different from other countries. So perhaps we might even work together with them in the future. It's best to build up good relations with Yi Mo now. Why would he make us admit who the mastermind is? Shauna asked subconsciously. Edward glanced at Shauna and Kuyu. There was no reply, but as they looked at each other's faces, they realized the answer. Even Kuyu knew what was going on. In all likelihood, Luo Yu probably didn't even consider them a threat. They just wanted evidence. This evidence was necessary, so they would be able to deal with Indonesia with reason on their side. If they admitted it, Luo Yu would have that evidence. They were even planning on getting revenge on the Indonesian Navy. How could they consider a small corporation like them a threat? This also meant that Yi Mo wasn't joking when he said he would turn their bay into a bloodbath. If they went to Luo Yu again, it would remain nothing but a threat, but if they didn't, it wouldn't stop at being a mere threat. Kuyu finally realized the severity of the matter and stood up, nodding. Okay, in that case, let's go to Luo Yu as soon as we can. We'll go all together. Ooh. Yi Mo was very happy at the moment. Not only had he recruited a lot of talented military personnel, Yixing had also designed their first automatic targeting radar system. It had been named by Yixing as the Space Shield Defense and Offense System. It could not only scan a 30 kilometers area of sea and air, but was also capable of target locking and even automatic attacking. Each set of parts within the system could chase up to 50 targets at the same time, and multiple systems wouldn't overlap on targets. The radar could also detect any missiles within 3 kilometers. It might not be more advanced than the US's radars, but this was only the first-generation defense and attack system. As soon as the system is put into action, cover all of Luo Yu with it immediately, Yi Mo said. He knew from the moment that he moved there that he would have to fight the U.S. He couldn't do that without an advanced aerial defense system. As soon as the system is put into action, cover all of Luo Yu with it immediately, Yi Mo said. He knew from the moment that he moved there that he would have to fight the U.S. He couldn't do that without an advanced aerial defense system. The U.S. intercontinental missiles could easily reach Luo Yu, and their accuracy was insane. Moreover, even if they didn't send missiles, they still had nuclear bombs. Luo Yu was nothing but a weakling to them. Yi Mo didn't know if his invisibility could go undetected from all radar systems. If it couldn't, then airstrikes would be a problem for him. Furthermore, although he could easily take down jets, he couldn't deal with such a large air force. If they ganged up against him and managed to drop a bomb onto Luo Yu, he would suffer heavy losses. Although Yi Mo had other means to get revenge on the U.S., Yi Mo wanted to avoid suffering losses and then having to go annihilate his enemies. The system Yixing had designed combined defense and attack, and no one needed to operate it. This was one of Yi Mo's ideals. Attack is defense. Yi Mo left Zhongjiayan and Yixing behind to continue discussing the radar system, and he took Su Yuehua to the guest hall again. As he expected, Blue Ray had sent 4 people to negotiate this time. Even the General Kuyu was there. Yi Mo wasn't planning on ignoring them. He came as soon as he heard of it. He knew that this corporation meant no threat to him, but he still had to solve things. Mr. Yi, hello, I'm Edward, the advisor for Blue Ray Corporation. This is our General Kuyu. As soon as Yi Mo entered the room, Edward immediately approached him, hospitably to shake hands and introduce himself. Yi Mo nodded and pointed at Su Yuehua. She's the current person responsible for the city, Su Yuehua. Please have a seat, everyone. Edward had heard from Dongfang Tang about how straightforward he was, so he said, I believe Mr. Yi and Ms. Su already know why we're here. Please accept Blu-ray Corporation's deepest apology. We would like to give you any compensation you consider necessary. Edward hadn't mentioned he wanted his men back at all. All he had said was that he would pay for a compensation. Instead of Yi Mo, it was Su Yuehua who spoke. We don't need an apology. We just want to know why you attacked Luo Yu, Edward said without hesitation. We're mercenaries. We would only do something that's stupid because of the orders of the people who hired us. Ms. Su, you must know we don't have fleets. Then Edward continued without Su Yuehua asking. We were hired by the Indonesian Navy. Their naval commander, Xiao Lucio, negotiated with us personally. They said they didn't have enough military power, so they hired us to attack Luo Yu together. Oh, so that's it. General Kuyu, what is your verdict? Su Yuehua looked at Kuyu. Kuyu was indeed impetuous, but it was already too late. His men had already admitted it. Why would he deny it? He quickly replied, That's right, Commander Xiao Lucio found us and asked us to send men over. They offered us $300 million. Su Yuehua smiled. In that case, sign here, just in case you change your mind. Su Yuehua took out a document and put in front of Kuyu and Edward. Although they knew they were probably being recorded, they didn't dare not to sign. The two men looked at the document and smiled bitterly. It had already been printed. They had been waiting for their signature. Su Yuehua put the document away, and Yi Mo stood up. He believed the negotiation was over. Edward smiled bitterly at Yi Mo and also stood up. He finally said after some hesitation, Mr. Yi, some of our men are still dash. Yi Mo smiled and waved his hand. Even if you hadn't said anything, I was going to mention it. Your squadron's men liked Luo Yu and decided to stay. They are working on building Luo Yu right now. I was going to make you give some compensation, but seeing their passion for their work, I might as well satisfy their needs and let them stay. What do you think, Mr. Edward? Edward was full of bitterness, but after Yi Mo's expression sunk, he didn't dare complain. He was afraid of pissing Yi Mo off and in the end having to give him a compensation. Although the corporation had lost some elite members, it was a good thing that they hadn't gotten annihilated. As for getting the fleet back, like Indonesian officials had requested, Edward decided not to mention it. If he dared say that now, he would truly be done. Dongfang Tang, do you know someone called Dongfang Shi? Yi Mo suddenly asked. Dongfang Tang had been thinking about something else and wasn't very focused, but after Yi Mo asked, he was shook. He immediately calmed himself down and quickly said, I don't know. I don't know who Dongfang Shi is. Dongfang Tang's expression was uneasy, but Yi Mo still wasn't sure if they were related. He detested Dongfang Shi to the bones, and he had the feeling that Dongfang Tang's reply wasn't truthful. However, he couldn't grasp where the problem was. Dongfang Tang lied. Su Yuehua suddenly said after they left. How do you know? Yi Mo asked. Su Yuehua said, Dongfang Tang is a mercenary, and what do mercenaries do? They either help others fight wars or kill. They need to understand the international conflicts and also know about people in the same profession. Nanqing's boss, Qianlong Tu, also had a few thousand mercenaries who took on jobs like the Blu-ray Corporation does. They are competition. Dongfang Shi is the head advisor of Qianlong Tu, and Dongfang Tang is clearly an advisor to in Blu-ray Corporation. How could he not know of Dongfang Shi's existence? He wasn't able to think clearly when he replied, and he will realize the problem once he gets back. Yi Mo nodded. There definitely was something wrong, but now it wasn't the time to find him. Dongfang Tang wouldn't be able to escape from him. Since Blu-ray Corporation hadn't been able to take any of their men back after these mercenaries found out they had been abandoned, they all decided to serve Luo Yu. But also Huang Yinian and Guiqi brought up their standards a lot. Nearly a month later, The Indonesians hadn't sent anyone over to negotiate yet. It seemed as though they hadn't even been involved in the attack. This made Yi Mo think something was off. After receiving news from Su Yuehua's connections, he found out that there was an internal conflict going on in Indonesia. Some people were unhappy about the fact that they had attacked Luoyu, which pleased Yi Mo. While everybody else was busy building Luoyu, Yi Mo started cultivating and searching around for spirit herbs and special ores. He wanted to make a bigger storage ring and find a bunch of 100-year-old yellow essences. He was going to use them to make qi-increasing pills. Thus, he had to leave Luoyu. However, he would come back at most 2 days later, as Luoyu was still vulnerable. The reason why Yi Mo was going out in search of herbs and materials was because even though Luoyu had published a list to the world, it hadn't been very effective. Some materials which he needed had been found, but not a single true spirit herb. The reason why Yi Mo was going out in search of herbs and materials was because even though Luoyu had published a list to the world, it hadn't been very effective. Some materials which he needed had been found, but not a single true spirit herb. Yi Mo knew that spirit herbs usually grew in dangerous places and were hard to get. Spirit herbs also had the instinct to protect themselves like humans. They wouldn't grow in normal places. So Yi Mo could only try his luck himself. After Yi Mo left Luoyu, he first went to Ninghai. Tang Beiwei was willing to move to Luoyu now, and would be helping Yi Mo manage the spirit herb garden he planned on growing. But the purple heart vine was at a critical stage of its growth, and it wasn't good to move it, so Tang Beiwei couldn't leave Ninghai just yet. Although he wanted to go see Ting Ting too, Yi Mo gave up on the thought upon remembering Yun Bing's affection for him. Yi Mo was scared that if he let something happen again, he really wouldn't be able to face Ning Qingxue and Luoying anymore. Yi Mo also wanted to go to America after he found some more herbs and was ready. His target was simple, acquiring weapons and information. Yi Mo wanted to take back all of America's most advanced blueprints and some prototypes of theirs. Another thing was that he wanted to go back to Chinatown and ask Peng Yueji and Shi Kaijian whether they had found Sister Yan yet. And if there were people willing to go to Luoyu with him, he would bring them back. He needed large numbers of people right now. Wuyang Town. This was the second time Yi Mo came to this town. The first time, he hadn't even known the name of the town. After he and Ning Qingxue left Shen Nongjia, they came here to buy some clothes before Yi Mo sent her back. The reason he had returned here was because he had found large amounts of herbs at the Chiu Tua Peak. Yi Mo was low on herbs, so this place was his first choice. He was just passing by the town, as it was the closest town to Shenongjia, and he was also short on supplies, so he was going to buy some food for his storage ring. As Yi Mo walked up to a shop, he saw many people around it and a crying girl. Yi Mo sent his spirit sense in there subconsciously, and it turned out he actually knew that girl and had seen her more than once. Although he had never talked to her, he knew that she was called Xiao Yu and that she was a nun from Lianhang Jing Temple. Luo Xian had said that her sect originated from their sect. He quickly figured out why the girl was crying. A nun laid next to her. It was the nun who had accompanied her to the auction, and she was dead now. She seemed to have been killed due to a fatal injury to her neck, as seen by the needle-sized wound on it. Yi Mo knew that this martial artist next to Xiao Yu had to have been at least at the peak of the yellow stage. Someone like her had been killed in an ordinary town. This was too suspicious. Move aside. Don't ruin the crime scene. The police arrived, and all the bystanders moved aside. Yi Mo shook his head and was about to leave when he heard Xiao Yu call out, "Yi Qinbei." When the police arrived, everyone moved aside, and so Xiao Yu happened to see Yi Mo and called out to him. People around her started whispering amongst themselves, "This nun seems crazy. Qianbei, what era was this?" Yi Mo didn't mind. Although he had no connections with this Xiao Yu, but she was an ancient martial arts cultivator, and since she had recognized him, he might as well help her. What happened? Yi Mo walked in and asked. Since she had realized that it wasn't too appropriate to call Yi Mo Qianbei here, Xiao Yu rubbed her sore eyes and said, Brother Yi, my martial sister was killed. I know the police wouldn't be able to catch the culprit. Yi Mo thought this little nun was really straightforward, saying that the police wouldn't be able to catch the culprit in front of their face. Although Yi Mo knew she was telling the truth, she was too inexperienced in this society. As soon as Xiao Yu said that, the police at the scene became unhappy. Xiao Yu was the victim's family, so they couldn't reproach her, but they immediately grew unhappy with Yi Mo, this outsider. A middle-billed police stopped Yi Mo and said, Go out first. This is a crime scene. Do not destroy it. Xiao Yu stood up and rubbed her eyes before telling that police that but I know you wouldn't be able to get the culprit. He's very strong. Little girl, we understand your feelings right now, but please don't ruin the crime scene. And what's your name? Show me your ID. A young police said unhappily. They didn't want to be too mean, since Xiao Yu was the victim and was an innocent and pretty-looking nun. Xiao Yu said desperately, I'm Yen Yu, Brother Yi, please help me. She knew that Yi Mo's status was very high, even higher than her master's. Yi Mo sighed. If he let Yen Yu continue like this, the scene would only get worse. So he could only take out the ID Han Zaixin had given him and said to the police, This is not an ordinary case, leave it to me. You guys can go back now. Leave it to you? A policeman of average build wanted to rage away immediately, but was stopped by a middle-aged police officer. He took Yi Mo's document, looked at it, and then gave it back to Yi Mo carefully. Yes, Instructor Yi. Then he waved his hand. Retreat. Despite the others not knowing what was going on, the captain had said to retreat, so no one dared to ask a thing. Yi Mo picked up the nun and left the scene under the public's shocked gazes. Then he asked, What's going on? Your martial sister was already a Yellow Peak cultivator. How could she have gotten killed? Also, what are you doing at Shinongjia? Yen Yu sniffed. 2 months ago, our sect was suddenly attacked. The attacker was cruel and killed many of my martial uncles and sect members, and even our sect leader. Before leaving, my master was wearing soft armor and was able to survive. She was just heavily injured. Martial Sister Mei, and I came to Shinongjia to pick the Tiandan flower dash. Wait dash, Yi Mo stopped her. The Tiandan flower you're talking about. Is it a plant that has 3 flowers and each flower has a different color? Yes, Yen Yu replied. That means you have found it? Yi Mo couldn't help his tone from getting excited. Yen, you didn't mind Yi Mo's tone, and nodded. We found it, and after we picked it, it was already dark, so we stayed in town for the night, planning to go back this morning, but dash, Yi Mo understood. Someone who wanted the flower had killed the martial sister. The Tiandan flower could cure extremely serious internal injuries and was one of the 3 main ingredients for the qi increasing pill. It was a low-level spirit herb. It was fine if the person just took the flower, but taking the flower and killing the owner, this was too over the line. Why was your sect attacked? And since it was such a complete attack, how come you and your sister were fine? Yi Mo asked. My martial sister, a few martial uncles, and I went to the Hidden Sects tournament. By the time we came back, it had already happened, Yen Yu said. My martial sister, a few martial uncles, and I went to the Hidden Sects tournament. By the time we came back, it had already happened, Yen Yu said. Yi Mo asked in shock, You're saying your sect was annihilated? Yen Yu shook her head, not entirely, as there was only one enemy that night. When he came, though, those who fought him all died. Only my master lived, and the remaining low-powered members who couldn't even face the enemy. Yi Mo immediately understood. He nodded and asked again, So that means those who saw the enemy's face were all killed, right? Yen Yu nodded, and started crying on her martial sister's body again. Yi Mo figured that the enemy hadn't been planning on annihilating the sect. If he had, those weaker sect members would have been killed too. It might be someone the sect knew personally, or maybe he was afraid of other people knowing his identity. How strong was that attacker? Yi Mo really wanted to know who had such courage. Their sect wasn't weak, yet it had been practically annihilated by a single person. Yen Yu wiped her eyes and sniffed. My two martial uncles were Earth-level primary stage. My master and the sect leader were Earth-level middle stage, and there were 4 black-level martial uncles. Yi Mo was shocked. Such an ensemble attacking one person, yet they all died. This enemy was too strong. Thinking among the people Yi Mo knew, someone as strong as that was at least at Wang Lenchen's level. Other than him, there were Feng Wu, Wu Dao, Xiang Ming Wang, and that sect leader of Jiu Ming Academy. But Xiang Ming Wang was dead. Wu Dao seemed very benevolent and wouldn't do such a thing. The only possibilities were Feng Wu and that Jiu Ming Academy sect leader, but why would they do such a thing? Did your master see who it was? Yi Mo asked again. Yen Yu shook her head. No, she had her face covered. My master only knows that it was a woman, and that she was a half-step great heaven master. Yen Yu immediately removed Jiu Ming Academy's sect leader from his suspect list. Yi Mo didn't expect there to be such a strong woman in the world. Did you see the person who attacked your martial sister Mei? Yi Mo asked. Yen Yu hesitated for a moment before saying, when I came out of Shen Nongjia with my martial sister yesterday, it was already dark, but as we went into the hotel, I turned around and saw a gray-clothed person standing not far from us under the streetlights. When I wanted to take a better look, the person had already disappeared. I don't know if that wasn't him. Gray-clothed person? Not good. Yi Mo realized that the hotel would of course have security cameras, but he hadn't cared a bit before, so he didn't think of checking the recordings. What's wrong? Yen Yu asked immediately. I think we should go back and check the footage to see who it was. Yi Mo voiced his idea. Yen Yu was dazed. Yeah, her martial sister had been killed in that hotel. How could they not check the surveillance footage? Bury your martial sister first. Yi Mo pointed at the foot of a mountain not far away. Yen Yu was completely muddle-headed right now, and just did as Yi Mo told her. Yi Mo took out a thin needle from the martial sister's neck, and then helped Yen Yu bury her. Then he took her back to the town. Meanwhile, the owner of the hotel was scared. A customer had died in his place. He had the highest probability of being held responsible somehow, but the family of the victim didn't look for trouble that much. This made him breathe easy, but before he could finish his sigh of relief, someone else came. A male relative this time. Seeing the hotel owner's fright, Yen Yu didn't have the mood to ask questions. She saw it couldn't have had anything to do with the hotel owner. Please show me your surveillance recording, Yi Mo asked. Soon it was replayed, and luckily it wasn't destroyed. There were no cameras inside the rooms, only cameras at the front and back of the building. The time was shown clearly, and in the very early morning, a gray-clothed man had indeed been circulating outside the hotel. The man hadn't covered his face, so from the recording, Yi Mo could see the man had a long face and had to be in his 40s to 50s. When he left, he was carrying a blue bag on him. Yen Yu recognized the bag. It was the bag her martial sister had used to put the Tian Dan flower in. She started crying again. Yi Mo hurried away from the town. He knew that this man wasn't a part of modern society, or he would have tried to delete the footage. The guy probably came from the hidden sects too, or lived at a place somewhere away from society. Are there any of these flowers left where you found them? Yi Mo asked. Yen Yu shook her head. No, but there are many other herbs. We were planning to go back after our master had recovered. I want to pick some herbs. Can you take me there? After I find them, I will try to come back and save your master, Yi Mo said awkwardly. His main goal now wasn't to get revenge for Xiao Yu's martial sister. He knew that it wasn't easy. Who could guess where that guy had gone? He had only looked at the footage in order to remember the person's face, just in case he could kill him if he saw him. Luckily, Yan Yu understood that it was impossible for Yi Mo to find the culprit now. She didn't complain and just said, "I'll take you there. All I'm asking is for you to save my master," as though he realized he had overdone it. Yi Mo asked casually, "Xiao Yu, you said your sect was almost annihilated by a woman. Do you know why she caused a carnage at your sect?" Yan Yu shook her head. "I don't know, we didn't lose anything from our sect. However, our library was a mess." Perhaps she was trying to find a book or some sort of cultivation method. Yi Mo was sure that she wasn't trying to find ancient martial arts cultivation methods. She was already at halfway Great Heaven stage. Her cultivation method must be top-notch. How could she be interested in their cultivation method after they walked together for a while? Yan Yu felt a little better. She had been lucky to meet Yi Mo. Although she was taking Yi Mo to pick herbs, she trusted that he would keep his word and treat her master afterwards. Yan Yu was a yellow-level primary stage martial artist after all, so she could walk very fast. It only took her half a day to take Yi Mo there. The place was similar to where Yi Mo had found the face-preserving fruit. It was a very steep cliff. Yan Yu explained that her martial sister and she had found the herb in the middle of the cliff. Since it was too high, they had had to use ropes, but after her martial sister died, the ropes were gone. "Isn't this a piece of a long rope?" Yi Mo had just gotten there when he saw a custom-made rope. It was like the ones martial artists used when he first came to Shenongjia. "Huh, this is my martial sister's rope. Why would it be here?" Yan Yu ran to him to touch the rope. She was about to cry again. Yi Mo analyzed the situation and scanned his spirit sense down. He was at stage 5 now, and his spirit sense could reach almost 800 meters. There was a place very different to its surroundings in the middle of the cliff. It was lush and green, much better than the barren land around it. Just when Yi Mo was about to mention it, he saw the gray-clothed man with a bag of herbs carefully picking them out. Yi Mo sneered, and he thought, "So you came to me on your own. Xiao Yu, have you thought about why the rope could be here?" Yi Mo suddenly asked. Yan Yu subconsciously nodded her head. "That man is coming up." Yi Mo saw the man crawl up the rope. He was very fast. "Ha!" Yan Yu stood up worriedly, but she soon calmed down. She had witnessed Yi Mo's power with her own eyes. It should be no problem for him to beat the person who killed her martial sister. That gray-clothed man's herb basket was full. He seemed to have picked quite a lot. When the man jumped on top of the cliff, he found Yi Mo and Yan Yu staring at him. He was shaken but reacted rapidly and took out a long sword. "Why did you kill my martial sister?" Yan Yu's eyes were red. She wanted to kill this person, but she knew she was no match for him. "Little girl, I had mercy on you and let you go, yet you dared come back here. Don't blame me. You're seeking death yourself." The man smiled viciously and glanced at Yi Mo. He thought that Yi Mo was probably some help the little nun had called for. Yi Mo glanced at the herb basket. It was actually full of precious herbs. He scanned the platform at the cliff, and it seemed most of the good herbs had already been picked by this guy. It seemed he was quite skilled in medicine. The guy was only at the black level tertiary stage, but his skin was quite pale, perhaps due to long periods of staying in darkness. It seemed he was preparing to reach the earth level. The Tiandan flower is a good thing. Everyone wants it. But since you were able to take it anyway, why kill? Yi Mo shook his head. "Who are you? What's that got to do with you?" "Huh?" the man shouted. He wasn't sure about Yi Mo's identity yet, but he wasn't afraid of him. Yi Mo was young. No matter how strong he was only in his 20s. What could he do? What he was afraid of was that there might be other people nearby. So, as he spoke, he scanned around with his eyes. Yi Emo knew what the guy was thinking and sneered. No need to look around, there's no one else here. I don't need people to help me with some black-level trash like you. You can see my power level? Who are you? The gray-robed man became hesitant to attack now. Yi Emo slowly walked up to the man, not minding the long sword at all. Yen, you wanted the guy dead, but seeing Yi Emo walk towards him without a weapon, she began to worry. Seeing this, the man rejoiced. No matter how strong you are, if I suddenly swing, how are you going to dodge? When Yi Emo was only 2 meters from the man, he suddenly took a step forward as his long sword turned into a ray, slicing at Yi Emo's waist with lightning-fast speed. Yen Yu subconsciously covered her eyes. She knew that Yi Emo wouldn't be killed like that, but she was still scared. Yi Emo saw this and quickly reached out his hand. Before the sword ray reached him, he took the sword from the man, and the sword ray suddenly changed positions. By the time the gray-clothed man could react, he found that his sword had appeared in Yi Emo's hand, and he felt pain from his body. Slump, the man fell to the ground as he howled in pain. His legs had been cleanly sliced off. The man stared at Yi Emo in horror. He had never met a master like Yi Emo. He had always thought himself as part of the strongest group of people on earth, yet he hadn't even been able to last a breath in front of Yi Emo. Yi Emo reached out and took over the herb basket. He looked around and saw that there was a Tiandan flower indeed. He rejoiced. Once he made an essence-increasing pill, he would be able to reach the Qi-gathering tertiary stage. There was only a one-word difference between essence-increasing pill and Qi-increasing pill, but their difference in potency was truly undeniable. One was for reaching the Qi-gathering primary stage, while the other was for the Qi-gathering middle and even tertiary stages. Yi Emo looked at the dumbfounded Yenyu and called out, "This person killed your martial sister. Aren't you going to get revenge? What are you standing there for? You just need to kick him off the cliff." Yenyu reacted, and her eyes became firm, but before she walked up to him, the man called out, "Don't kill me. I have a lot of ancient martial arts treasures. If you let me go, they're all yours." "Oh, where do you keep your things then?" Yi Emo suddenly asked. The man actually didn't consider how to use it in exchange for his life, and subconsciously replied. At Nanlu Peak Dash, Yi Emo stopped the man's words and sighed. "I think you've been a primitive man of Shin Nong Jia for too long. In that case, you can die. Yenyu, hurry up and kick him off." The man really didn't know how to interact with people. Yi Emo wouldn't care about his threats anyway, but from this one could really see how low this man's EQ was. Hearing Yi Emo's words, Yenyu went up and sent out a kick. The man cried out and fell off the cliff. "Wait for me here. I'll be going down to see if there are any other herbs." Then Yi Emo went down the rope and landed on the platform. After landing, Yi Emo assorted the herbs in the basket and put them in his ring. Then he collected all the remaining useful herbs into his ring as well. 2 hours later, even Yi Emo felt like he had harvested quite a lot. Good people got good fortune indeed. If he hadn't helped that nun, he wouldn't have gotten this many herbs. At the same time, Yi Emo was also suspicious about why so many herbs would be gathered in areas of Shinnong Jia. He wondered whether they hadn't perhaps been grown by people a very long time ago. After all, in the cultivation realm, it was normal to find herb gardens left behind by Qianbais. Although Yi Emo wanted to go check out the other peaks and that Nanlu Peak, he knew that Yenyu was worried for her master. Just as Yenyu was getting desperate, Yi Emo came back. "Brother Yi, no, Yi Qinbei, may I ask when we will go back to treat my master's wounds?" Yenyu was scared of Yi Emo, but this concerned her master's health. "Where is your sect?" Yi Emo asked. "At Wu-Yi Mountain's hidden Tone Valley," Yenyu said. Yi Emo had heard of Wu-Yi Mountain before. In fact, he had gone there once to search for Luo Ying, but it wasn't close to where they were at all. Yi Mo didn't have the time to take a plane with Yen Yu. Yen Yu understood that as well, and thought that Yi Mo might not want to go because it was too far. So she immediately said, Yi Chinbei, it's actually not that far by plane. We can dash. Yi Mo waved to stop her from talking. I didn't say it's far or anything dash. Before he finished explaining, he knocked her out from an angle she couldn't see. It would be too troublesome to go by plane, so he might as well fly over on his flying sword. After that, Yi Mo took the rope and carried Yen Yu onto the flying sword. Tens of minutes later, Yi Mo appeared at Wu Yi Mountain. He found a quiet place and dropped Yen Yu. Then he started making pills. He was sure that with his means, Yen Yu would keep sleeping for a while. That was a good thing for her. Her sect had almost been annihilated, and her martial sister was killed. It wouldn't be good to stay emotionally tense like that. Almost 10 hours later, Yi Mo had finished making 2 cauldrons of lotus life pills as well as some normal pills. Yen Yu opened her eyes and just assumed that she had fallen asleep. She was shook and quickly crawled up. You're awake. Let's go see your sect. Yi Mo walked over to her. We're already at Wu Yi Mountain. Yen Yu looked at the surroundings and suddenly realized, how could she wake up in Wu Yi Mountain? We're already at Wu Yi Mountain? Yen Yu looked at the surroundings and suddenly realized, how could she wake up in Wu Yi Mountain? Although she had too many questions to ask, she knew that even if she asked, Yi Mo probably wouldn't answer her. It was strange that she suddenly fell asleep last night, too. Although she wasn't experienced in this world, she knew some people had special powers and they didn't like others asking them everything about it. So when Yen Yu woke up, she didn't ask anything. She just thanked Yi Mo and took him to Inyan Valley. The valley was very far off. Yi Mo was sure that he wouldn't have been able to find it if Yen Yu wasn't showing the way. The two walked for a long time across Wu Yi Mountain, and finally Yen Yu took Yi Mo into a place covered in mist. As Yi Mo arrived at Lianheng Jingzhai, he felt that this place was worse off than Serenity's. This sect was much more famous than Serenity, but their territory was too bad. Yi Mo looked around. The place looked tattered indeed, and there were few sect members. It could be seen that the incident 2 months ago had had a great impact on the sect. Yen Yu's master was an old woman in her 60s. She laid on a bed looking old and fatigued. After hearing that Marshall's sister May had died, she didn't say anything, but her sadness was evident on her face. Master, this is Yi Chinbei. I invited him here to treat you. Yen Yu carefully wiped the old nun's eyes and explained. Yi Mo, it was actually Yi Mo. Some rays of hope appeared in the master's eyes. Although she strugglingly tried to sit up by herself, her physical state didn't allow her to. Yen Yu quickly helped her up. She had heard of Yi Mo's name. To the people of the outer hidden sects, he was an infamous existence. Young hero Yi, Xiao Yu is immature and actually annoyed you to come here. My apologies. The old nun was different from Yen Yu. She had actually dared invite Yi Mo to come treat her condition. If someone like Yi Mo got angry, he could easily annihilate their sect. She didn't want to mess with someone like Yi Mo. After all, they were a far cry from the big 6 among the outer hidden sections. Yi Mo was speechless. Yi Mo had been in the city for too long and now felt quite unfamiliar with names like Young Hero and Qianbei. Yi Mo could tell that this old nun was wary of him. At the same time, his spirit sense noticed that the nun was very seriously injured. If he didn't use a lotus life pill, it would cost large amounts of qi to cure her. Yi Mo didn't like troublesome things, and besides, he had gotten so many herbs thanks to Yen Yu, he might as well give her a lotus life pill. I don't dare take the name of Young Hero, and it sounds a bit strange too. If you approve of me, then just call me Yi Mo. Yi Mo waved his hand. The elder persisted. You mustn't say that. Young Hero Yi, My Buddhist name is Qing Yen. Martial sister Qing Hui. Hurry up and greet young hero Yi. Yi Mo knew that in Qing Yan's mind, he was someone who took care of things with only force, so he shut his mouth and didn't bother explaining. The reason she was like this was not because she was afraid of him, but because she was afraid that he would cause trouble in their sect. She was probably blaming Yen Yu for being immature, daring to take back someone like Yi Mo's side. He knew that the longer he stayed there, the more uneasy they would be. He looked at Yen Yu, who was at a loss, and said, I came because Xiao Yu also helped me with something. So I'm simply helping with treating Qing Yan's wound in return. Nothing else. Young hero Yi, I know my wounds, and I know there's no hope of curing them. But Xiao Yu and Xiao Mei insisted on finding the Tian Dan flower to cure me, but even that wouldn't fully cure me either. Young hero Yi is destined to do big things. On account of your relations with Xiao Yu, please help look after our sect instead, Qing Yan said. Yi Mo was speechless. Was his name that bad within these hidden sects? He could tell that the nun didn't really mean for him to take care of their sect. What she really meant was, since you're someone who will do big things, all will be good as long as you don't look for trouble with our mere small sect. Am I some big bad wolf? Though it wasn't like he had to care with this nun, who was about to die. Yen Yu was also getting uneasy. She wasn't an idiot. Her master and her martial uncle's expressions meant that she shouldn't have brought Yi Mo here. Yi Mo didn't want to say anything anymore, and so just took out a lotus life pill and said to Xiao Yu, this pill should be enough to cure your master. Give it to her. Young hero, Qing Yen didn't want to owe Yi Mo even if it meant her condition not improving. But before she could finish, Yi Mo stopped her. Half of your meridians are broken, and your dantian has signs of cracking too. If not me, then no one will be able to save your life. Hearing this, Qing Yen forced down her words in shock. Yi Mo hadn't even touched her, yet he knew how heavily injured she was. And then he had still dared to say he could cure her. This was too magical. What immortal pill was this pill of his? Anyway, Yen Yu was worried about her master, and quickly put the pill in her master's mouth. Qing Yen felt the pill immediately melt in her mouth and get absorbed by her body. Right away, she started to feel a certain cool sensation as her broken meridians started to heal. Even while she was still in shock, Yi Mo said, Qing Yen performs some meridian cycles now, and I believe you will be able to recover up to 80% within the hour. Qing Yen did as told by Yi Mo half an hour later. Even Yen, you noticed how her master had recovered greatly. 1 hour later, Qing Yen let out a breath of relief. She had thought she was dead for sure, yet in this legendary Yi Mo's hands, she recovered in but an hour. All she needed now was a couple days of rest. Qing Yen was shocked. Yi Mo was a mighty killer, but also a mighty savior. She owed Yi Mo now, and quickly said, Thank you, young hero Yi, you saved my life. It was my mistake to have prejudice against you. Yen Yu and Qing. We also went up to thank Yi Mo. Yi Mo waved his hand. Since Qing Yen is fine now, I need to go. We'll meet again if fate brings us together. Seeing Yi Mo about to leave, Qing Yen and Qing Hui felt embarrassed. They had both been very vigilant against Yi Mo, but he had really just come to help. Young hero Yi, if you don't mind, please leave after lunch. We're really thankful for your help, but have nothing valuable, and are about to move away. It will be hard for us to thank you in the future, Qing Hui said. Yi Mo smiled. I came because I got Yen Yu's Tiandang flower. I don't care about payment, but this place looks pretty nice and hidden. Why would you be moving away? Sai, we were almost annihilated 2 months ago, and that time, my disciple also got killed. I don't think this place is suitable for us anymore, Qing Yen sighed. Yi Mo thought, my Luo Yu city needs large amounts of people living there anyhow. Wouldn't Qing Yen be interested in bringing her sect there? However, Yi Mo didn't know how to invite them. If these scared nuns thought he was scheming for something that wouldn't be good. Considering this, he casually asked, "Who did you offend 2 months ago for such a calamity to have been brought upon you?" You're tuning in to the Mystic Fist YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.